Copy that, QL1. But if I wanted to speak to someone, do you think they're out there?
They're out there, all right. Their award-winning client service is beyond anything I've ever experienced.
3, 2, 1.
Rocket Mortgage at QuickenLoans.com. Push button, get mortgage.
Rocket.
Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Another SpaceX competitor is breathing down Elon Musk's neck. A private space travel company hopes to launch its first passenger flight next year. ABC's Richard Davies has the story.
The space firm Blue Origin is run by Jeff Bezos, the chief executive at Amazon. It has 600 employees and is working in a former Boeing airplane parts plant in Seattle. Bezos says the first people who take a ride on a suborbital flight won't be paying customers, but thousands have expressed interest in paying for a trip. A handful of other companies are currently competing in the private space business, including SpaceX and Virgin Galactic. Richard Davies, ABC News.
Redbook magazine is dropping the term plus-sized, starting with the new issue. Melissa McCarthy is on the cover. Inside, she talks about her fashion line for every woman, even those who aren't a size 0. She says her goal is to make all women feel beautiful, inside and out. She doesn't like that American culture forces women to compete, and she's trying to teach her 2 daughters to take a compliment. Karen Chase, ABC News.
Local news is brought to you by Fred Holmes Tree Service. FredHolmesTreeService.com, 427-4489.
From the iFIBER ONE Newsradio studios, I'm Marilyn Foster. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County found more homeless children than during the same time last year. Tammy Newton, the county's Human Services Coordinator, who trained volunteers for the January 28th count, released the findings yesterday. They showed that 211 homeless children aged 18 and younger were counted, compared to 85 children during the 2015 count. Children accompanied by adults fell to 7, compared to 50 in 2015, a 614% decline. Newton said the Mason County Homeless Coalition wants to improve relations with school districts to find additional homeless children and families. You can see other findings in the count with this story on our website at iFIBER1newsradio.com. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is threatening to begin vetoing legislation unless lawmakers reach a budget deal soon. The legislative session will end at midnight tomorrow. 35th District Representative Dan Griffey reacted on Daybreak.
That's ridiculous. There's very good policy for Washington State that needs to be considered and needs to be signed into law by the governor. And for him to take this ridiculous action is just an idle threat. If he doesn't pass some of this stuff into legislation, it's going to be things like breakfast after the bell. So it's going to be a little ridiculous for him to threaten to veto those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to fill open positions. The Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy, Melissa Wood, said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Wood said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Wood said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training period. A reminder that the Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER ONE News Radio, 1030 KMAS at FM 103.3, I'm Mary Lynn Foster.
The Chad Benson Show.
How in the world are you going to pay for all that you want to do? And you can only tax people to a certain point. People who are smart, guess what? They get sick and tired of it, and they find other ways to do stuff. All of a sudden, you go from having a certain percentage of something to 100% of nothing.
The Chad Benson Show. The Chad Benson Show. Live weekdays, 3 to 6 on iFIBER ONE News Radio.
Gillis Auto Center in Shelton, a full-service dealership and growing daily. Our new general manager, Todd Huber, has over 40 years' experience in dealership operations. We've reorganized our service team by hiring Chris Baez as our service manager. Chris brings a wealth of technical knowledge and customer service to our team. Our Gillis service and parts departments are open 6 days a week. Experience the all-new Gillis Auto Center in Shelton at the City Center Matlock exit and 24/7 at GillisAutoCenter.com.
Now, from the all-new Gillis Auto Center Sports Desk, here's Jeff Slakey.
Well, good morning to you. It is a Wednesday here, the 9th of March. It's 6:08. And I'm Jeff Slakey, taking a look at the sports from around the area on a game heard here last night. Eric McClellan scored 20. Kyle Wilcher added 17. And Gonzaga took the guesswork out of its 18th straight NCAA tournament appearance by beating St. Mary's 85-75 last night in the WCC championship game. Despite sharing the WCC regular season crown, Gonzaga ended the season 26-7, was not a lock to make the tourney. They had a few smudges on their resume, but by winning the tournament, this made Selection Sunday a whole lot easier for the Zags. They'll be able to just sit and watch, find out who they'll be taking on in the first round of the NCAA playoff, and March Madness. We'll have that game for you, and we'll follow the Zags as far as they go during NCAA basketball. Mike Napoli had 2 hits and drove in a run, helping the Cleveland Indians beat the Seattle Mariners 4-3 in spring training yesterday. We've got Mariners baseball tonight on iFIBER ONE News Radio. Pregame at 7. First pitch tonight at 7:10. The Seattle Seahawks have waived defensive tackle Jesse Williams after he missed the 2015 regular season following surgery for kidney cancer. Williams spent the last season of non-football illness list after he had surgery in the spring to remove a cancerous kidney. He returned to join the Seahawks during training camp and played in preseason games, but determined at the end of the camp to spend the season recovering. Defending Big Sky Conference Tournament champion Eastern Washington beat 11th-seeded Northern Arizona 74-52 last night in the first round. Eastern Washington won 3 games in last year's tournament at Montana to earn its second appearance in the NCAA tournament. Will we see Eastern again? We'll find out. And finally, in the Pac-12 tournament, UW takes on Stanford at noon. 6:11 here now at iFIBER ONE News Radio, and checking the South Sound's forecast, here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around the South Sound. The high today will be in the upper 40s, and we'll get about 2 inches of rain by the end of the day. And
whoa.
Yeah, it's a lot of rain. An area flood watch and a coastal flood advisory have been issued. Tonight, wind could be a problem. Forecast is for gusts near 40 miles per hour. Tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. For expanded weather coverage, check iFiber1newsradio.com. Right now in Bremerton, it's 42, Olympia 41, and in Shelton, 41.
Now, from the iFIBER ONE News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor, your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
Good Wednesday to you. I'm Jeff Slakey at 6:12 at iFIBER ONE News Radio. 35th District Representative Drew McEwen here today on the penultimate day of the legislative session. Question mark, question mark, question mark. We'll find out if Drew feels that we'll get things wrapped up tomorrow. At 8:15, we are expecting transit talk, and at 8:45, port of call today. News around the area. Mary Lynn Foster has the story, but January's point-in-time count of the homeless here in Mason County has been released. Tammy Newton, the county's Human Services Coordinator, released the findings on Tuesday. And one of those findings that we heard about was the children, but also 31 military veterans were counted compared to 14 in 2015. That's about a 50% increase.
Also, the Mason County Sheriff's Office seeks qualified people for to fill open positions. The Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy Melissa Wood said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff.
6:13 at iFIBER One News Radio.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
I'm Ari Wolf with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Calvin Johnson has made his decision to retire from the NFL. The Lions receiver announced Tuesday he's filed his retirement papers after a 9-year pro career. The perennial Pro Bowler leaves the Lions as their all-time leading receiver with 731 catches for 11,619 yards and 83 touchdowns. Johnson said in a statement, quote, "I want you to know I have the utmost respect and admiration for the game of football. It has provided so much for me and my family, and I will be forever grateful to the game." Defensive end Malik Jackson, fresh off a Super Bowl title with Denver, has agreed to terms on a 6-year, $90 million deal with the Jaguars. That, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. Meanwhile, the Dolphins announced the signing of 4-time Pro Bowl defensive end Mario Williams to a free agent contract. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
QL1, this is Control. Ground crew is secure. Over.
Copy that, Control. Rockets powering up. Over.
QL1, this is Control. Does Rocket Mortgage require me to fill out a bunch of paperwork?
Negative, Control. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans is the first on-demand mortgage machine that quickly and seamlessly imports your financial data. You can go through the entire mortgage approval process in minutes.
Copy that, QL1. That is fast, like rocket fast. Do you think that's why they named it Rocket Mortgage? Over.
Affirmative, Control. That's probably why they named it Rocket Mortgage. It also works on any internet-ready device, so you can get a Rocket Mortgage at any time or place you choose.
Roger that, QL1. So technically speaking, you could get a Rocket Mortgage at rocket speed from inside an actual rocket?
Please just press the button, Control. Over.
Copy that, QL1. 3, 2, 1.
Rocket Mortgage at QuickenLoans.com. Push button, get mortgage.
Rocket.
Visit for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
6:16 at iFIBER One News Radio, and a good morning to you.
Good morning. Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen announced he is not running for re-election. He told the Senate his 4 decades in state service has been a rare privilege and a great honor. Owen, whose role includes presiding over the chamber as president of the Senate, choked up several times Tuesday during a 20-minute speech in which he talked about his long career with the state and his term ending next January. A Democrat from Shelton, Owen was elected to the State House in 1976, serving in that chamber until his election to the Senate in 1983. He served in the Senate until he was elected lieutenant governor in 1996 and was reelected to that office 4 times. Several people are running for the position this year, including 3 state senators and a state representative.
Well, good for him. That's a long time in public service.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Legislature has passed a bill that seeks to keep police body camera videos available to the public while limiting broad requests for the footage. Measure now goes to the governor for his consideration. Under the bill, certain videos would be presumptively private, such as footage that shows a dead body was recovered in a home or shows a minor. Such footage would be held with unless their request can demonstrate that the video is of legitimate public concern.
Documents show a Tacoma kindergarten teacher fired for drinking in the classroom had a blood alcohol level of 5 times the legal limit to drive in Washington state. Tacoma school district officials say Clara Bowman was fired last week after an investigation. The district says her blood alcohol content was registered at 0.40, which is the highest this test will register.
So it won't go to 0.41, so it could have been higher than that? Is that what you're assuming in that story? The highest that test will register?
That is what they had reported.
Wow. Full Senate in Washington has passed a supplemental transportation budget that includes money to raise the salaries of Washington State Patrol officers. The proposal was approved 44-5. A vote yesterday will be considered by the House now. The budget is an agreed compromise supported by leadership in the House and the Senate. According to the Office of Financial Management and lawmakers, it would alter the two-year transpo budget passed last year by about $500 million, with about $5 million going towards a 5% salary hike for state patrol officers. A report given to the legislature this year said many troopers leave the patrol for higher paying jobs in local law enforcement agencies, creating an unsustainable drop in officers. Carol, I'd heard from people that I know that work inside state patrol that if this had not happened, or if there was not some gesture made, a lot of folks were ready to walk, because you can walk down the aisle of graduation, move your tassel, you're now graduated. And Seattle Police Department comes up right as soon as you're done. You haven't even hugged your kids yet. Seattle PD says, hey, why don't you come work for us? Starting is way better. We got way better perks. And so who's not going to take that opportunity, looking at their family and their kids going, oh, well, I could either be here, be miserable, or...
Well, there are other factors that go into just...
I guess it's not just money.
I mean, they'd have to move and everything. But yeah, there are people, if you don't... I mean, if you're just starting out and you have all these options, then yeah, you would take obviously the best option.
I don't know any of the intimate details of this, but one person I know has been on the force for 20 some odd years. And he says that he makes about the same as a 2 or 3 year officer in Seattle.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years of tenure, as opposed to a quarter century in the state patrol. That's tough stuff.
That is tough stuff, especially because it's the state.
That's what I always never understood. 619 at iFIBER ONE Newsradio.
The legislature has passed a measure to rename a state highway in the honor of a Black Civil War veteran. The House unanimously concurred with change changes in the Senate on House Joint Memorial 4010, and the bill now heads to Governor Jay Inslee. The measure has the Washington State Transportation Commission, which is responsible for naming highways and bridges, to start the process of naming State Route 99 after Black Civil War veteran William P. Stewart of Snohomish.
Is your business targeting the state's largest payroll? Military personnel at JBLM and Naval Base Kitsap surpass all others, and Swarner Communications gives your businesses direct reach into those markets with newspaper advertising, face-to-face events, email blasts, mobile marketing, reputation management, and more, all for one affordable price. Call Swarner Communications today, 253-584-1212.
Hey, baseball fans, it's that time of year again to join iFIBER ONE Newsradio for Seattle Mariners baseball. Baseball is part of the fabric of summertime in the Northwest, and with people traveling to enjoy outdoor activities like camping, fishing, hiking, and boating, the only place to listen to the Seattle Mariners is on iFIBER ONE Newsradio. People ask what they remember about a business when they have a need, and they always remember the name that they hear, the one that is most relevant in their mind. Advertising makes your business relevant and part of the community. Your business can be part of the Mariners broadcast each day or each inning of every game this summer by signing up now. Any business that signs up now to advertise with the Mariners gets up to 300 free scheduled magnets. Call iFIBER ONE Newsradio today at 360-426-1030 and sign up to be part of the Mariners broadcast team.
Hi, I'm Ken Slater, the Roof Doctor. If you're like me, your family's important, so make sure that they're well taken care of. One of the best ways to do that is to provide a safe and warm home to live in. For over 50 years, the Roof Doctor has been helping families stay safe and warm by building roofs that last for generations. Our teams have some of the most experienced roofers in the area, and we only use the highest quality materials to keep your family safe, warm, and dry. That's the Roof Doctor. Give us a call.
iFIBER ONE Newsradio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
622 at iFIBER ONE Newsradio. Authorities say 9 firefighters are injured and residents have been evacuated following a natural gas explosion Fire officials say all the injured firefighters are being treated for minor wounds at a hospital. The blast and fire occurred in the city's Greenwood neighborhood after firefighters responded to a report of a natural gas leak. Photos posted on the department's Twitter feed are showing partially collapsed buildings, windows shattered in surrounding buildings, and debris tangled up in trees. And let's see. Andy Wappler from PSC says they are checking the entire area to make sure there aren't any other leaks.
The survey will give us a health check on the water system right here in the area. If there's any leak in any kind of piping or service in the ground, we don't have any indication right now there is, but we want to know that for sure.
And also the firefighters were trying to find a gas leak.
It's a dangerous job. It's a difficult job. And very often those crews are called in and do have to take some time. Their equipment is sensitive, but it means that they will have to narrow in and find that leak source.
6:23, so we'll continue to monitor that situation nationally as well. There were elections that happened in the primaries and caucuses around the country, and with ABC's, here's more information.
Your voice, your vote. The candidates set their sights on the next round of primaries.
Ohio is very special to me for a lot of different reasons, and Florida is my second home.
Republican presidential hopeful Donald Trump this morning on Good Morning America, celebrating victories last night in Michigan, Mississippi, and Hawaii. His one loss yesterday came in Idaho, where Senator Ted Cruz prevailed. And Ohio Governor John Kasich insists that he is gaining ground.
It's gone from single digit into the 20s now, ahead of Marco Rubio, and not really that far behind Donald Trump.
But the headline emerging from yesterday's primary is Hillary Clinton's loss to Bernie Sanders in Michigan, a state the former Secretary of State was expected to win easily.
Hillary Clinton was clearly hoping to give a victory speech. Instead, she came out and addressed her supporters, giving a standard stump speech.
If you work for me and if you vote for me, I will work my heart out for you.
For Bernie Sanders, a sign of optimism. He told his supporters he plans to fight on.
David Wright in Miami. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
6:25 at iFIBER ONE Newsradio. We have for you tomorrow night on the radio next GOP debate put on by Salem Radio Network and CNN. We've partnered with them again to bring you the debate. It's from Miami, and that's the next home for the big primaries throughout the time. We'll have the Ohio and the Florida one, as we were mentioning. Carol, you have some percentages of the results from yesterday. It looks like Trump did pretty well, as usual.
Yeah, he 42% in Hawaii, 37% in Michigan, and 47% in Mississippi. And Cruz took 45% in Idaho, so he was the top winner in Idaho.
How was Kasich in Michigan?
He 24%. So.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, was ahead of Rubio is what he said. Unfortunately, it sounds great. He did 24%. Trump only did 37%, but still, if you do the total delegates, he says he's in the race, but he is so. Trump has over 400 more delegates than Kasich has at all. But you know, I was talking to my mom the other day about some of the Republican primary or media events or debates or whatever. And Kasich hardly ever had the floor. You know, I mean, mainly it was Trump, and then Cruz and Rubio, and then Kasich was off to the side also with Carson.
They had this deal where if you were mentioned, you got an additional 30 seconds or something. So I think what happened towards the end of the last one or two ones ago, Trump was in the middle and Cruz and Rubio were on either side. And when Rubio was hitting Trump, at the end, he'd say something about, oh, and Ted Cruz did that too. So then Cruz could then say, he said my name, now I get 30 seconds. So then he had 30 seconds to ding on Trump. And at the end of this, he goes, oh, and Marco, blah, blah, blah. So then they gamed the system. And then, yeah, you're right. Kasich over there just kind of stands there moving his hands a lot.
Yeah, so the media, unfortunately, really plays a huge role in what people know.
Sure.
I mean, that's really unfortunate.
There is a lot of, again, I talked about it yesterday, watching old video of 2008. That wasn't even that long ago. And just how different the landscape of media has been over these 8 years. It's really amazing. 627 at iFiber One News Radio, and a good morning to you. Mary Lynn Foster has the latest in local news. January's point-in-time count of the homeless here in the county was released yesterday, and Tammy Newton passed along the information to us. We've got it on our website with findings of the count, which we'll have in the story for you as well. Lots of weather happening today. It's going to be pretty wet.
It's going to be pretty wet. They are forecasting almost 2 inches of rain, and then not only rain, there's some wind coming up this afternoon, later in the evening.
So everything's going to be nice and saturated, and then it will move on from there. George Martin passed away. You familiar with George Martin, Carol?
George Martin.
The fifth Beatle?
The fifth Beatle, yep. That's what they call him anyways.
Sherry Preston has more on his relationship with the Beatles.
Sir George Martin told ABC News Radio back in 1983 it irked him when people questioned the Beatles' musicianship.
I get rather peeved when people say to me, somewhat in a somewhat sneering tone, well, of course, the Beatles couldn't read music, could they? That's got nothing to do with music.
He says the Beatles would come to him and tell them what they wanted, and he would help them get there. Paul McCartney famously credits Martin for the use of strings on songs like Yesterday and Eleanor Rigby. He says George Martin was truly a great man who left an indelible mark on his soul. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Just to be part of that deal, just to be part of the Beatles and George Martin. So he's the guy. I mean, he's almost, Elton John doesn't write his music. Bernie Taupin writes most of Elton John's stuff. So he's like the Bernie Taupin. I mean, in a sense, if the Beatles really couldn't read music, and yay if they could, yay if they couldn't, for him to be able to take their ideas and turn it into Eleanor Rigby or Yesterday or things like that. Fifth Beatle indeed. Fifth Beatle indeed. You're a Beatles fan? Or are you Rolling Stones?
No, I'm more of a Beatles than a Rolling Stones, though I do like the Rolling Stones. But if I had to just be on a desert island with one band, CD or whatever they tell you, there's no way you could pick. I mean, I could not pick just one band to be stuck on a desert island with, or even if you had to pick a band with the people. No, you only could pick the music.
I'd pick like a band that has got 50 people in it. Then I'd have more people to talk to.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFiber One News Radio.
Local news is brought to you by Shelton Health and Rehabilitation Center. Find them online at sheltonhealthandrehab.com.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, I'm Mary Lynn Foster. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County found more homeless children than during the same time last year. Tammy Newton, the county's human services coordinator, who trained volunteers for the January 28th count, released the findings yesterday. They showed that 211 homeless children age 18 and younger were counted, compared to 85 children during the 2015 count. Children accompanied by adults fell to 7, compared to 50 in 2015, a 614% decline. Newton said the Mason County Homeless Coalition wants to improve relations with school districts to find additional homeless children and families. You can see other findings in the count with this story on our website at iFiber1newsradio.com. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is threatening to begin vetoing legislation unless lawmakers reach a budget deal soon. The legislative session will end at midnight tomorrow. 35th District Representative Dan Griffey reacted on Daybreak.
That's ridiculous. There's very good policy for Washington State that needs to be considered and needs to be signed into law by the governor. And for him to take this ridiculous action is just an idle threat. If he doesn't pass some of this stuff into legislation, it's going to be things like breakfast after the bell. So it's going to be a little ridiculous for him to threaten to veto those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to fill open positions. The Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy, Melissa Wood, said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Wood said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Wood said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training period. A reminder that the Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS at FM 103.3, I'm Mary Lynn Foster.
I'm attorney Harold Carr. During the past 25 years, more than 8,000 people have trusted me to handle their personal injury cases. I understand how an injury can disrupt your life and cause financial hardship for you and your family. At the law firm of Harold Carr, we have 5 attorneys and 19 staff members experienced with negotiating and litigating with insurance companies. So if you feel the insurance company is not dealing with you fairly, call me, Harold Carr. Let us deal with the insurance company so you won't have to.
Car accident? Call Carr or visit us online at haroldcarrattorney.com.
Happy New Year for the NFL, that is. I'm Dave Packer reporting on sports. The NFL's new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern today, and with that new year, many free agents will be able to make their new contracts official. But one move that will also become official this afternoon, the retirement of Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson, who filed his paperwork with the league on Tuesday. While Johnson's talent was without question, ESPN's Michael Rothstein points out the one thing Johnson's resume lacks.
Personally, he did everything he possibly could on an individual level. Team-wise, however, he never quite got that satisfaction that he wanted. He always said he wanted to win with the Lions, and it just never happened.
More tickets being punched to the NCAA tournament on Tuesday. Green Bay ends a 20-year tourney drought after winning the Horizon League title. Gonzaga, Fairleigh Dickinson, and South Dakota State will also be dancing later this month. The San Antonio Spurs haven't lost consecutive games all season, but that mark was in jeopardy Tuesday night against Minnesota.
Aldridge in the paint. LaMarcus runner with the left hand off the back of the rim and good for LaMarcus Aldridge. He's got 23, and the Spurs have their biggest lead.
On WOAI, as the Spurs overwhelmed the Timberwolves 116-91. LaMarcus Aldridge finished with 29 points in just 29 minutes. Elsewhere, Damian Lillard came up big for the Blazers in overtime.
Lillard now dribbles left, comes back right, across the foul line, puts the shot up, banks it in! Time on Washington!
On KPOJ, as Portland got past Washington 116-109. On the ice, the Bruins had their eye on first place in the Atlantic Division.
Bergeron right away, feeds it out in front, score! Brad Marchand tips it in, 10 seconds into overtime to give the Bruins a tie for first place.
On 98.5, the Sports Hub, as the 1-0 win in overtime over Tampa Bay moves Boston into a tie for first with the Lightning. Both teams have 83 points. Dave Packer, ABC Sports.
The calendar has moved to March. Weather is starting to get better. Days are getting longer. March 20th, the first day of spring. And with spring, attention turns to America's pastime, baseball. Seattle Mariners baseball. iFIBER One News Radio is your home for Seattle Mariners baseball all season long. You can listen on AM 1030 or FM 103.3. The South Sound home for Mariners baseball this season is iFIBER One News Radio, AM 1030 and FM 103.3.
Now, from the all-new Gillis Auto Center Sports Desk, here's Jeff Slakey.
Good morning to you, 6:36 here at iFIBER One News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey taking a look at sports. On a game heard here last night, Eric McClellan scored 20. Kyle Wilcher added 17. Gonzaga took the guesswork out of its 18th straight NCAA tournament by appearing they beat St. Mary's last night. They'll be in the NCAA tournament for sure. 85-75 was the win, becoming the champions of the West Coast Conference. Despite sharing the WCC regular season crown, Gonzaga was not a lock to make the tournament. Few smudges here and there on the resume, but winning the WCC made that a moot point. So now Sunday, the team is just going to be able to sit back and watch, find out who those other 68 teams will be. 67 teams will be. Mike Napoli had 2 hits and drove in a run, helping the Cleveland Indians beat the Mariners 4-3 in spring training yesterday. We've got the Mariners for you tonight on iFIBER One News Radio. Pregame at 7, first pitch at 7:10. Defending Big Sky Conference Tournament champion Eastern Washington beat 11th seeded Northern Arizona 74-52 last night. They'll play number 3 seed Idaho in a quarterfinal game tomorrow. And in the Pac-12 tournament, UW takes on Stanford today at noon. 6:38 here at iFIBER One News Radio, and taking a look now at the South Sound's weather forecast. Here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around the South Sound. The high today will be in the upper 40s, and we're going to get about 2 inches of rain today. An area flood watch and a coastal flood advisory have been issued. Tonight, wind could also be a problem. A forecast is for gusts near 40 miles per hour. Tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. For expanded weather coverage, check iFiber1newsradio.com. Right now in Bremerton, it looks like a big rain cloud is right over the top of the Bremerton area. It's 42. Olympia, the rain hasn't quite reached it yet. It's about 42 there also. And in Shelton, we're sort of clear right now with 40, or overcast with 43.
Now, from the iFIBER One News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor. Your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
Well, good morning to you. 6:39 at iFIBER One News Radio. And I'm Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner on this Wednesday morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great guests, plenty throughout the day today. Drew McEwen, 7:15. Likely to hear from Transit Talk at 8:15 and at 8:45 today. Port of Call here on iFIBER One News Radio, AM 1030 and FM 103.3. Follow us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/1030KMAS. Just do a search for us there on your Facebook.
News around the area today. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County was released, and Tammy Newton, the County Human Services Coordinator, said on Tuesday the findings of the January 28th count are 572 homeless individuals were found compared to 827 in 2015, or a 45% decline.
More findings on that are available on iFiber1newsradio.com. The Mason County Sheriff's Office seeking qualified folks to fill some open positions. They are looking for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. That's what Sheriff Office Communications Deputy Melissa Woods said. And if you decide today that you want to be working there, it takes about a year to go through all the training and the backgrounds and things like that.
Right. And Shelton's own and state Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen has announced his retirement after 4 decades. Owen will last through the term, which ends in January. Several people are running for this position, including 3 state senators and a state representative.
There are more details on the recently fired Tacoma kindergarten teacher's blood alcohol level coming up on iFIBER One News Radio and litter crews. Carol found something pretty strange around I-90 near North Bend.
And the weather today is going to be very rainy, highs in the upper 40s.
6:41 here at iFIBER One News Radio. We'll live the country life in a few moments here today. And when we come back, more stories of note, including, I don't know if you've been following this Hulk Hogan Gawker lawsuit. Took an interesting turn of events yesterday. Well, I'll share that file story for you after this.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
I feel right at home on JohnLScott.com.
Hi, this is Dawn Pinnell from John L. Scott Real Estate here in Shelton. For a while now, I have been saying welcome home and sharing with you some great listings and some hopefully educational and interesting items of riveting radio real estate topics. We're moving our time slot to Friday at 8:55, right at the end of the morning show. I hope you will continue to listen and that you will contact me with any of your real estate needs. I would love to help you say, I'm home.
The ocean waves roll in. Hypnotic, continuous, and perched high above rests the oldest family-owned resort on Washington's coast, Ocean Crest Resort. Picturesque, friendly, comfortable. Ocean Crest has served as the perfect ocean hideaway for over 60 years. With unsurpassed ocean views, warm fireplaces, full kitchen, swimming pool, hot tub, and spa. Ocean Crest Resort offers you total and unrivaled relaxation. Frommer's Guide reports you simply won't find a more spectacular setting anywhere on the Washington coast. And Ocean Crest's enchanting restaurant is listed as one of Washington's 13 ultimate restaurants you must visit before you die. See for yourself with our special 3-for-2 package. For a limited time, stay 2 nights and get a 3rd night free. Call 800-684-8439, 800-684-8439, or visit oceancrestresort.com. Ocean Crest Resort, making memories since 1953. In Moclips, overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Living on an acreage provides 4-H opportunities for kids interested in animals. Hi, I'm Jody Henke. Before you jump into an animal project, do some research and know your child's abilities as you're living the country life.
Living the country life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country. You can find more information on today's topic and from previous shows by visiting us online at livingthecountrylife.com. We'll return to the show after these messages.
He's done 3 tours and now he's saving his dad's farm. Do you know a farmer veteran like that? We're inviting you to share their story. Successful Farming Magazine and Grasshopper Mowers are teaming up to acknowledge and thank farmer veterans for their service. This new initiative is called From Fighter to Farmer. Enter any veteran farmers you know in our contest at agriculture.com/fighter to farmer. Explain the veteran's military experience and farming operation, along with the involvement they have in your community. 3 veterans will receive a combination prize package of $5,000 and a vacation to Nashville. 1 lucky winner will also receive a $10,000 gift certificate to spend at Grasshopper Mowers. No purchase necessary. Open to legal residents of the 40 contiguous United States and D.C. 13 years and older. Begins February 1st, 2016 and ends April 30th, 2016. Subject to official rules at agriculture.com/fighter to farmer rules. Void in Alaska, Hawaii, and where prohibited. Sponsored Meredith Corporation. From Fighter to Farmer is brought to you by Grasshopper Mowers. Enter any veteran farmer you know in our contest at agriculture.com/fighter to farmer.
I grew up on a small acreage in eastern Iowa. We had a barn and plenty of room for a corral, so my siblings and I raised heifers and steers as our 4-H projects. Club calves were popular projects in my 4-H club and throughout the county. It was a good fit for us. Michelle Neff is an extension educator at Michigan State University. She says if your kids are just starting out in 4-H or FFA and looking for an animal science project, figure out what their interests are by exposing them to different opportunities.
It could be going to a neighbor farm and visiting. It could be going to a fair or going to an exhibition show where animals are being exhibited, and kids get the chance to ask questions and see what happens when you have those type of projects.
Check with your local zoning laws for any restrictions. Be sure you have enough space, the resources, and the time to work with an animal. Every child has different skills and abilities, both physically and mentally, so also make sure he or she will feel comfortable around the animal. Neff recommends starting out with something small.
A goat project or a rabbit project or a poultry project. They're kind of a little bit less expensive, but yet they still need the skills of learning how to feed it, learning how to groom it, how to handle those animals. And once they've mastered some of those skills, or they feel that they want to explore a project that's a little bit more expensive and maybe takes a little bit more knowledge and skills, then they can move into that later down the road.
If you have limited space or are concerned about handling large animals, consider the mini versions. Miniature cattle breeds, horses, and pygmy goats might be a more comfortable and safe option for a young person. What animal science projects are your kids working on? Tell us at livingthecountrylife.com. I'll see you in the country.
Living the country life. Ideas and inspiration for your place in the country. You can find more information on today's topic, share your tips, and post photos by visiting us online.
iFIBER ONE News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
Good morning to you. 646 at iFIBER ONE News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I am well this Wednesday morning. Drew McEwen at 7:15. It's our next guest here on iFIBER ONE Newsradio. We have some more information about the Tacoma kindergarten teacher fired for drinking in the classroom. The blood alcohol level came back, and it was 5 times the legal limit to drive here in the state. Tacoma School District officials say Clara Bauman was fired last week after an investigation, and they say that her BAC, her blood alcohol content, registered at 0.40. The state's limit is 0.08, and this is the highest the test will register is 0.4.
And that's what she had that in her classroom. That's what she had in her classroom with the container they said that she had in her classroom.
Yeah, so yesterday the story said that she had a container that may have had alcohol in it, and I suppose that they pulled her aside.
How was she standing if she had that much alcohol in it in her? Obviously, that's why they noticed.
Probably.
Wow. Man.
You know? And there's got to be a little tolerance built up if you're able to
not have
somewhat
alcohol
function.
poisoning.
Well, I mean, if it was just that they saw or smelled it out of the container, how long has it been an issue?
Yeah, I don't know. And if it's vodka, does it smell? The old vodka trick?
I heard about that. Yeah, I've heard about that it doesn't smell. I don't know if that's true or not, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Stinks to me.
So you were talking about an odd story earlier.
Yeah.
They found something along the highway. So the State Department of Ecology officials say a crew that was picking up litter found 100 pairs of shoes in boxes along Interstate 90 east and North Bend. Cairo TV reported the state officials say the shoes appear new and have been now donated to a Seattle organization that helps homeless women, children, and families in need.
I saw the picture of the shoes, and they're just kind of like Vans or deck shoes, laceless deck shoes, slip-ons.
Just white shoes.
Just white slip-on shoes. So strange.
How
would they get there? And what semi is now opening up its trailer in Poughkeepsie and saying, "Oh man,
Santa semi.
That's some shoes here," or something like that.
I'll dump some off here. I know some litter pickers are coming up pretty soon, and maybe we're going to find shoes all over the place. Some.
So weird. I mean, that's
it is sort of weird, though.
So there's that weird story about this, but then you're familiar with the Vancouver beach shoe finds over the last 20 years or so?
No.
These are the single shoes with feet in them that have found floated and landing
with feet in them,
on the Vancouver Islands.
Yeah.
Well, it stopped for a while, and they found another one recently.
Did they?
So, they thought that they had figured it out, that it was people falling off boats.
Right,
and that the shoes these days are built so that they float. They're very air light. And whatever, and the feet stay in the shoes. So that's 2 strange foot stories.
Yes.
Regarding the Northwest. Terry Bollea. You know that name?
Terry Bollea.
Terry, I think it's Bollea. Boella. No? Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
It's Hulk Hogan's real name. Hulk Hogan is in the middle of a lawsuit in Florida, and it's him v. Gawker, and Gawker is a media news chain online. They put out websites like Gizmodo, Lifehacker, and then there's Gawker proper. There was a sex tape that was released of Hogan and his former best friend's wife. Now, the friend is Bubba Clem, who was a radio guy in the South. He's a big-time radio guy. The famous pro wrestler, the arguments yesterday took an interesting turn, and I can see the turn made, and I can see the case made by Terry about Hulk. Lindsay Janice has more on this one.
The defense is arguing that Hogan long invited the public into his private life, showing clips of him discussing it on radio programs, also clips of Hogan Knows Best, his former reality show, including one when him and his ex-wife Linda were seeking marriage help. But Hogan said, look, it's a TV show. That was Hulk Hogan. Hogan knows best, not Terry Bollea knows best. It may be difficult for the jury to try to figure out when he is which, but Hogan's people telling us it's really clear. Terry Bollea is almost always Hulk Hogan, except when he's in a private bedroom being secretly recorded. Lindsay Janis, ABC News, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Now, I can see where Terry Bollea says this, that the public image of Hulk Hogan has overtaken his private life, and that what he does, although not inexcusable, but some of the things that he does as WWE superstar Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
We are mostly how we are off the air, but there are certain idiosyncrasies that we do either on the air or off the air.
You mean Jeff Psyche's not your stage name?
No, I made up that name. No, that's my real name. That's who I am. I mean, I don't have a Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea thing going on, but I can see how when you're in the public spotlight, you put on a persona that is a little different than how you act.
Plus, wasn't he one of those wrestlers? And so you had to have like a Hulk Hogan. You couldn't go out and go, and Terry Bollea. Yeah, they'd be like, yeah, whatever. You're gonna wrestle with that name? Yeah.
So it's a tough story for him. This was released. It's really kind of ruined his life. That's what he says. So we'll see what happens. It's on the heels of the Erin Andrews $55 million decision the jury awarded her in her case for the peeping Tom that recorded her in the peepholes. Interesting.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
Experts say the next hot trend in home makeovers won't be a dream kitchen or bath, but a luxury garage. A closer look today from the Old Farmer's Almanac. With more practical tips and useful advice, this is the Old Farmer's Almanac radio report for Wednesday, March 9th, the 69th day of the year. Country singer Mickey Gilley has a birthday, and Mattel introduced the Barbie doll on this day in 1959. We've been asking retailers about the latest in home trends, and it seems that one area due for a dramatic makeover is the garage. Expect the garage to become more of an extension to the living space with its own climate controls, audio-visual systems, and yes, even wet bars. Higher quality flooring and finishes will give the garage a more refined look. Specialized storage is becoming a new standard, and some homes will have tubs or sinks installed as pet washing stations. It all sounds great. We just hope they remember to leave room for the car and maybe a toolbox or two. That is the Old Farmer's Almanac radio report. Learn more at almanac.com.
iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
Good morning to you. CNBC has a business radio report in 2 minutes here on iFIBER One News Radio. It's Daybreak. I'm Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Jeff.
Marilyn Foster has the latest in local news coming up, and one of the stories that she is going to talk about is the recent point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County. She's got some information sent to us by Tammy Newton, the county's human services coordinator, who went out along with a couple many volunteers to a couple different areas in the county where they know homeless are living, and they talked with them and got a little bit more information. We've got the result findings on our website. Additionally, Marilyn Foster has in the news what, Carol?
She's going to talk about the sheriff's office that is looking for qualified people. She's going to go into that story to talk about why and how long it takes to get hired with the Mason County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah. Also, yesterday, we had 35th District Representative Dan Griffey on the air, and we talked to him about yesterday's threat by the governor. Said basically, well, I'm going to veto stuff if you guys start to come up with this budget. You know, you guys have passed all this great legislation, and it may be great, but we got to do this, and I'm not going to do that if you don't do this. So we'll see what happens. I was talking to Stephanie about this last night, and in this political climate, that doesn't do anything. Those empty threats don't do anything. From his opposition, they say, look, he's intransigent. He doesn't want to work with anybody. We need to make sure he's not in office next year. For his supporters, they say, look at him standing up to the outrageous yada, yada, yadas. And so both sides, there's not a real good solution for that threat to come out.
Right.
Pretty interesting stuff. The application for new marijuana licenses is coming up.
For new marijuana retail license. Yeah, at the end of March 31st or end of March at 5 p.m. So the State Liquor Board moved the medical marijuana into the retail part. So the medical people had to apply for a regular license because they're going to become retail. So many of the applications are starting to hit the limit in certain communities because it's by community. So they only have until the end of this month to get theirs in if there's still even room.
Chris Mauer, CNBC Business Radio. Stocks open higher as oil prices recover. The Dow's up 62 points, the Nasdaq higher by 5. Amazon wants to cut down delivery costs by setting up its own delivery network. The e-commerce giant is leasing 20 Boeing 767 freighter aircraft from Air Transport Services Group. Amazon has also been testing delivery by drones, but hasn't said when it expects to have them in service. Lockheed Martin's aeronautics business is reportedly planning to reduce about 1,000 positions in the U.S. The company says it's offering mid-level employee groups in several locations voluntary layoffs. Some of those locations include Fort Worth, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia. Investor Carl Icahn has cut his stake in Mentor Graphics for a second time in a week. This time around, he slashed his stake in the design software and hardware company to 4.7%. Chris Mauer, CNBC.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-597-4816. That's 1-800-597-4816. 1-800-597-4816. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health issuing company.
The Chad Benson Show, live weekdays from 3 to 6 on iFIBER ONE Newsradio, AM 1030 and FM 1033, KMAS Shelton.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Karen Chase. It was a big night for Bernie Sanders. He proved the polls wrong with a win in Michigan and declared his revolution strong. Hillary Clinton won in Mississippi, but ABC's David Wright tells us Sanders is getting momentum.
This is a huge win for Bernie Sanders. As late as Tuesday, the polls showed him behind by double digits. So to come back and not only close the gap, but pull out ahead of her in Michigan, a stunning victory. Also, as the campaign now moves forward into other states in the Midwest, states like Ohio, where I am right now, Illinois, Bernie Sanders has new hope. Even though the polls show him behind here, the electorate looks very similar to Michigan, and so he has every hope of catching up.
Donald Trump is looking to land the nomination after winning 3 state races last night, Michigan, Mississippi, and Hawaii. ABC's Tom Yamas has the numbers.
Trump's closest rival, Senator Ted Cruz, winning in Idaho, but last night, no doubt, was Donald Trump's night. It was a brutal night for Senator Marco Rubio, who did not win anywhere, but is vowing to stay in the race, hoping to win his home state of Florida and all 99 delegates.
Pop Warner Football is paying $2 million to the family of a former player who committed suicide 10 years after playing for the league. ABC's Lindsay Janis tells us what's at stake.
The lawsuit claims Pop Warner failed to properly train coaches, use the safest helmets, and enforce limitations on hitting in practice, stating their conduct was deliberate, an actual disregard of the plaintiff's right to safety, health, or life.
It's payback time for Home Depot. To consumers whose personal information was stolen in the data breach, the company's paying nearly $20 million to compensate them through a $13 million reimbursement fund and $6.5 million in continued credit monitoring. The most interesting man in the world is heading to Mars. He's seen blasting off on a rocket ship in his final Dos Equis ad, telling friends to stay thirsty. The company says he's being replaced by a new actor. It won't say who, but will say there will be some sort of handoff. This is ABC News.
ABC Radio presents Made in America with David Muir. Brought to you by Advance Auto Parts Speedworks Rewards. No cards, no points, no nonsense. Details at advanceautoparts.com.
Tabasco. It's the red and green bottle, a staple in grocery stores, made on Avery Island, Louisiana. Produced for almost 150 years.
The same day the peppers are picked, they are ground into mash.
From there, it's right into places like New York's Blue Smoke Restaurant, a key ingredient in Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeot's hot wings. They're perfect. This is World News Tonight's David Muir. That's Made in America.
QL1, does Rocket Mortgage require me to fill out a bunch of paperwork?
Negative control. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans is the first on-demand mortgage machine that quickly imports your financial data. You can go through the entire mortgage approval process in minutes.
That is fast, like rocket fast.
It also works on any internet-ready device, so you can get a Rocket Mortgage at any time or place you choose. Over.
3, 2, 1.
Rocket Mortgage at QuickenLoans.com. Push button, get mortgage.
Rocket.
Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS Consumer Access.org number 3030.
A new stat reveals a sobering statistic in the land of opportunity. The American Academy of Pediatrics says an alarming number of children live in poverty.
The numbers are pretty staggering. 1 in 5 children in this country live in poverty, and almost 1 in 2 children are either poor or near poor.
Dr. Bernard Dreyer says the effects of such poverty are clear.
Poverty has lasting effects on brain development in children through toxic stress, which actually can change the structure and the function of the brain, as well as affect child's health with increased chronic disease, accidents, obesity.
But there is good news in the report.
Right now, there are 1 in 5 kids in poverty. Without government programs, there would be 1 in 3 kids living in poverty. So government programs work.
And he says more must be done. An entrepreneur has come up with a more comfortable alternative to the animal cone of shame, often given to dogs to protect stitches. A Florida woman has come up with an inflatable soft device called Cover Me that she says is healing. Karen Chase, ABC News.
Local news brought to you by the Lucky Eagle Casino. Visit online at luckyeagle.com.
From the iFIBER ONE News Radio studios, I'm Marilyn Foster. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County found more homeless children than during the same time last year. Tammy Newton, the county's human services coordinator, who trained volunteers for the January 28th count, released the findings yesterday. They showed that 211 homeless children age 18 and younger were counted, compared to 85 children during the 2015 count. Children accompanied by adults fell to 7, compared to 50 in 2015. A 614% decline. Newton said the Mason County Homeless Coalition wants to improve relations with school districts to find additional homeless children and families. You can see other findings in the count with this story on our website at iFIBER1newsradio.com. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is threatening to begin vetoing legislation unless lawmakers reach a budget deal soon. The legislative session will end at midnight tomorrow. 35th District Representative Dan Griffey reacted on Daybreak.
That's ridiculous. There's very good policy for Washington State that needs to be considered and needs to be signed into law by the governor. And for him to take this ridiculous action is just an idle threat. If he doesn't pass some of this stuff into legislation, it's going to be things like breakfast after the bell. So, it's going to be a little ridiculous for him to threaten to veto those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to fill open positions. The Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy, Melissa Wood, said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Wood said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Wood said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training period. A reminder that the Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS at FM 103.3, I'm Marilyn Foster.
Has this ever happened to you? Your significant other says, we've got to redo the kitchen, and you break out into a cold sweat?
Well, don't worry. It's a common condition, something we call needless remodeling anxiety. And we've got the cure. Heck, we are the cure. Hi, I'm Tom Kreitler.
And I'm Leslie Segretti. Whether you do it yourself or direct it yourself, we can help you keep your project on track and on budget.
So join us this weekend for the Money Pit Home Improvement Radio Show.
Saturdays at 10, Sundays at 7 on iFIBER One News Radio.
Wonder what the outrageously energizing experience of Mountain Dew Kickstart is like? Well, it's like a combo of 3 awesome things. Dew, juice, and caffeine rebooting your entire personal operating system.
Mountain Dew Kickstart is in position for consumption. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
Roger that.
Get charged up with Mountain Dew Kickstart, now in 4 energizing new flavors like Midnight Grape. It all starts with a kick.
Now, from the all-new Gillis Auto Center Sports Desk, here's Jeff Slakey.
Hey, good morning to you. Wednesday, iFIBER One News Radio, March 9th. Eric McClellan scored 20. Kyle Wilcher added 17, and Gonzaga took all the guesswork out of its 18th straight NCAA tournament appearance by beating St. Mary's last night, 85-75, to pick up the West Coast Conference Championship title. Despite sharing the WCC regular season crown, Gonzaga ended the season 26-7. They were not a lock to make the tourney. Zags had a few smudges on their resume, but winning the WCC made all that moot. Selection Sunday is this Sunday, and the team will have a chance just to sit back and relax and find out who they'll take on in the first round. Mike Napoli had 2 hits and drove in a run, helping the Cleveland Indians beat the Seattle Mariners 4-3 in spring training yesterday. We've got the Mariners for you tonight on iFIBER One News Radio, AM 1030 and FM 103.3. Pregame at 7. First pitch at 7:10. Defending Big Sky Conference Tournament champion Eastern Washington beat 11th seeded Northern Arizona 74-52 last night in the first round. They'll play number 3 Idaho tomorrow. Finally, the Pac-12 tournament continues today. UW will take on Stanford at noon. Taking a look now at the South Sound's forecast, here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around the South Sound. The high today will be in the upper 40s, and we'll get about 2 inches of rain. We have an area flood watch and a coastal flood advisory that has been issued. Tonight, wind could also be a problem. Forecast is for gusts near 40 miles per hour. And tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. So we got a big storm moving through. For expanded weather coverage, check iFiber1newsradio.com, the weather link. And right now in Bremerton, it sort of has like the rain sort of
passed over there, it looks like.
Passed over there, yeah. So it's about 42 in Bremerton. And Shelton and Olympia, we sort of are in a area of just really dark clouds, but not major rain right now. And it's about 41. But it's coming.
It's coming.
Now, from the iFIBER One News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor, your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
7:11 at iFIBER One News Radio, and a good morning to you. It is Daybreak here with Representative Drew McEwen on the way in just a couple of moments. Crews are working to shut off natural gas in the Seattle neighborhood rocked by an overnight explosion that heavily damaged buildings and injured 9 firefighters. Nearby residents were evacuated after the blast. There's no other word of any other injuries or anyone missing, but one witness told the Seattle TV station KOMO the blast shook him out of bed.
Wow.
The pictures on the Twitter are amazing.
They are.
You can find those on our lists and on the Twitter, on the Seattle Fire Twitter as well.
January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County has been released. Tammy Newton, the county human services coordinator, released the findings of the January 28th count. One of the findings is that out of 162 homeless individuals, they were living in structures, and it's lacking basic amenities such as water, electricity, and plumbing. And that compares to 70 counted in 2015 who said they lived in structures without utilities. So that's gone up double, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
More findings are available on iFIBER1Newsradio.com. Mason County Sheriff's Office seeks some qualified people to fill open positions. There are a lot of open positions around the area. 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff for Mason County. In Thurston County, they have 5 unfilled patrol deputy positions and 6 corrections deputy positions. More in Pacific County, Grace Harbor County as well, and even in Shelton, there is 1 unfilled patrol position, and they're currently at the lowest levels in 20 years.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
Tax deductions you may not know about. I'm ABC's Richard Davies with today's tax tip. What are the most frequently overlooked tax deductions?
People forgetting to report state taxes that they've paid.
Those are deductible on your federal return, says tax accountant Janice Heyman.
And also we have different property taxes. They may not think of tax paid on land outside of their main home.
Most people know that donations to a registered charity can be claimed as tax write-offs, but make sure you document what's been spent.
You really do want to go through your receipts, add up all your actual charitable donations. I think people are really missing out on a full deduction here because they're just guesstimating.
Long-term health insurance is also deductible.
It would be considered a deduction for medical expense, but also if you're self-employed, it would be considered a self-employed health deduction.
Some states offer tax credits, too, for long-term health insurance payments. With today's tax tip, Richard Davies, ABC News.
Wittenberg CPA is a professional accounting, tax, and financial consulting firm serving the diverse needs of their businesses and individual clients. They bring excellence and integrity to every aspect of their work, from accounting software support like QuickBooks to tax preparation for individual and business needs, as well as personal, financial, and estate planning services. Wittenberg CPA has the services you or your business needs this year for taxes. Find them online at wittenbergcpa.com or call 426-0230. That's 426-0230.
It's about your life and your money. It's the Dave Ramsey Show.
You don't win by accident. So this is your year to win. You don't get out of debt. You don't save your marriage by accident. You don't increase the quality of your marriage by accident. You don't raise great kids accidentally. These are intentional acts that you make choices on the variables in your environment and you form and control your life.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weekdays from noon to 3 on iFIBER One News Radio.
iFIBER One presents Daybreak.
$7:15 at iFIBER One News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning,
On
Jeff.
the phone, Carol, we have got 35th District Representative Drew McEwen. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Just the last few days are always interesting.
Maybe there's a lot of clouds out right now, but maybe you can see the start of a finish line maybe down the road. We'll get to that in a second. Yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that, Governor Inslee came out with a message that said, hey, you guys in the legislature better start passing these budgets, or I'm not even going to vote or sign into law any of the other work that you guys did. What do you think about that?
Well, frankly, I mean, the governor has shown a complete lack of leadership this session. I haven't even seen him, which is unusual during session. He has been largely absent. His style in the handful of negotiation meetings that he's been to, which is oftentimes with just our leadership from the various caucuses, and so I haven't been in those. But He's been very abrupt, and it's ironic. I think the governor forgot when he made that statement which Washington he's in. And under our state constitution, the governor does not have a pocket veto, and so the way it works in our state, if the governor doesn't sign the bill, it becomes law. He has to take proactive action in order to veto a law, and he thought it was the other way around, and it just shows what's again, the lack of leadership and understanding what he's dealing with here. The governor has 5 days, not counting a Sunday, to sign or veto a bill, and that starts from when the governor receives it. So there's actually a formal transmission that's done to the governor once it's passed both chambers. And then when it's for any bill, it's transmitted to him within the last 5 days of session, which is what we're in, obviously. The governor has 20 days after we sign, he die, not counting Sundays. So he's got until April 2nd for anything that's gone out of either out of the legislature this week. And and so that's after that they become law by default without him taking any action. So the threat was like, okay, whatever, and a lot of these bills are very bipartisan. It'd be interesting to see him take and then he changed his stance yesterday to, well, I'll veto him after somebody informed him on what the state constitution says.
So I'm aware of the term pocket veto, and for those who don't know, what you said is right. It's if you're not quite sure what you're going to do on a bill, if you put it in your pocket and let it sit, it kind of has a shelf life, if you will. So You're saying that our state is kind of opposite what we normally consider the pocket veto?
Yep, we don't have that in this state. A bill will automatically become law unless the governor takes active action to veto it.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting.
He didn't get that brief, but of course, you got to give the guy some empathy. He's had the most turnover of any gubernatorial staff in modern Washington state history, so that memo must have gotten missed.
There is a lot of other stuff he's got on his plate. I was talking to my wife last night about this, and I said it only emboldens his opponents by saying, he's intransigent and won't work with us, so look what's going on. We need to make sure he's not there. And then for his supporters, it just is, oh, look at him standing up for, whatever the budget process. It just didn't seem to me to make much sense with how fragile the relations are in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, and it's. But this has been a style with budget negotiations from day one. And I'll say this: I personally have had a fairly decent working relationship with the governor on a number of different issues. But when it comes to the budget, it's just you can't have this mentality of I'm taking my ball and going home. It doesn't work, And no more can we enact a budget without him than he can enact the budget without us. You've got to work together.
Sure.
And it just seems to be lost. We're not the federal level. We can't operate without one. But what's also missed in all of this, and which for me has been very frustrating, is that this is a supplemental year. We are operating under a budget, and there are a number of criteria that I think should be looked at when you're looking at a supplemental budget, when you're making adjustments to an existing budget that's existing law, that will still be in effect for another roughly 18 months, a little less than that. This actually was from Representative Tom Huff, who chaired the appropriations back in the late 90s. And, this was his criteria for doing a supplemental budget request, that it be an unanticipated, unmanageable change in entitlement program workload or caseload. So, i.e., DSHS has a sudden spike in casework, and that obviously costs money. You make adjustments for things like that. It corrects a serious technical error in the original appropriation. I know it's hard to believe, but technical errors happen in the budget writing process. Everybody looks at it, thinks everything's good, and then gets into practice and it's like, that comma or period's in the wrong place, or we listed the wrong agency. That happens. So obviously you make changes like that. It deals with an emergency. I mean, like the wildfires, that certainly qualifies under that. And then finally, it addresses an opportunity that will not be available next biennium. And that might, a good example maybe on that is just something that is unique going on in the state right now, that we have an opportunity to capitalize on something. And, and maybe it's a partnership with with another state or the federal government on something that has a shelf life, and if we don't act, that opportunity won't be there a year from now. So
right,
and I really believe that you got to look at the supplemental budget in that context. And there's been an effort to enact major policy changes, and I just don't believe that a short session and a supplemental budget is the time to do that.
It's a tough lots of things to get done in just a short amount of time. The other thing that kind of was percolating here and there, and it's gone up to the state Supreme Court, and it's the charter school issue. We voted as a state on charter schools and passed that initiative a couple years ago, and in betwixt then and now, it's kind of seen better days than kind of what's going on. Where are we at with the charter schools?
Yeah, so this is there's a couple of things I just want to bring up on this. We often you hear people lament that, I have no impact, I don't have a voice in state government. And I'll tell you what you do, because the charter school issue, I mean, those of us, and there's bipartisan support for this. So when I say those of us, I'm talking Republicans and Democrats that have wanted to, do a change on it to so that it would conform with the Supreme Court ruling, so that they could continue to operate. Those of us that have been wanting that have been set aside all session and largely ignored, and that includes the governor. He has not wanted to touch this. Well, the charter school advocates, which includes students, parents, and teachers, and I would like to point out a lot of these charter schools are in low-income, impoverished districts, and they are doing wonderful work. We're not talking about a charter school that's in Bellevue that's catering to the upper echelon. No, these charter schools, by and large, are in some very tough areas and have made dramatic improvements in those kids' education. But what they've done, they have been relentless this session, to the point where the governor finally said a week or two ago, "Okay, I'll come visit one," and he did. And it started to change his view, and they've continued to hammer both the House and Senate, to the point that last night we finally got an agreement on language for a bill that will fix it, and we will be voting on that later today. And I hope that this agreement sticks, that this is a done deal, and it also will help, I think, the logjam on the budget. And so today's going to be an interesting day. I think we have an opportunity here to really have a serious positive impact on Washington State education for decades to come. And the budget, it kind of ties into that a little bit as well. But when I get in there in another hour or so, we'll know if what the Democrat response was to the latest Republican proposal on the budget. They go back and forth. Each side gives their proposals, and today's a crucial day. And if all those things are good, we'll get out of here in time by midnight tomorrow. It'll probably end up being midnight tomorrow if we can get this all done. But so I just wanted to bring that up with the charter schools, and that, when people lament that I don't have a voice, yes, you do. You got to use it.
Right, right.
and these folks have, and they are on the verge of making a significant contribution to Washington State.
We are looking at the probable end of the session tomorrow, and yesterday we talked with Dan about offering up a chance to come on for a recap, and that can either be as early as next Wednesday, or if you want to take a little bit of time away, we understand that, but we do want to get you in for a recap of the session once we know everything as the dust settled. How's that sound?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do it.
All right, Drew, thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. 725 35th District Representative Drew McEwen here on Daybreak. It's time for a quick break. Marilyn Foster's coming up in about 4 minutes or so. Quarterback who took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl is retiring. That's right, I said it.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER ONE Newsradio.
Hi, this is Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Many of our Shiloh customers have been visiting our Shiloh locations for years, and here's an example of someone who wouldn't stay anywhere else.
Sometimes I go visit family, but most of the time I travel back and forth for business. And the best part is that I always travel with my dog Lucky, and he's welcome at any of the Shiloh Inns. I love their beds, beautiful rooms, really clean. The staff go out of their way to make me feel comfortable. Business area when I need it. Man, I'm telling you, at the end of the day, do I ever enjoy that pool and the spa? Plus, free breakfast. I love Shiloh Inns. It's everything I need.
We invite all of you to try Shiloh Inns the next time you're traveling for business or pleasure. Call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family owned and proud of it.
iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 1033 presents Daybreak.
Good morning to you. Carol was trying to give me her best theater trailer voice there. And do it again?
Yeah. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We are live. I just can't get my little commercial off.
Let me see this.
So anyways, Jeff, you said something, a big tease.
I did. I said that the quarterback that took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl is retiring.
But you did not clarify which Super Bowl.
Well, there's only, okay. So there's been 3.
Yeah.
And it's only been 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they just gave Russell a boatload of money.
I don't think he's retiring
I'm
yet.
going to go out on a limb and, folks, it's Hasselbeck.
Yeah.
Matt Hasselbeck. Number 8 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts. Matt Hasselbeck, honor and a pleasure. He's played for many, many years. 3 Pro Bowls. Took the Seahawks to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl XL. Remember that one?
Oh, who can forget? So he tweeted, it's the way to go, tweeting it out. He didn't do anything spectacular like cleats over a deal or riding into the sunset, but he tweeted, it's been an honor and a pleasure. And he's got a new job.
Already?
Yes.
It's going to be
joining ESPN as an NFL analyst.
I think I knew that he would eventually end up in the booth. Him and Peyton, of course, will be in the booth. Interesting, though, is that no more Ditka.
No more Ditka.
Ditka, who was the great coach for the Chicago Bears, had the 85 Super Bowl win. Mike Ditka is out, and Hasselbeck is in for Sunday NFL Countdown and Monday Night Countdown on ESPN.
Retires after 18 seasons. Jeez. He's a young 40-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, he has a whole new life ahead of him.
He sure does. Good for him.
Yeah, really great for him.
He was doing great for the Colts late in the season. What's his face with the beard was having some troubles, and so they brought Hasselbeck in, and he was really good. Not as good as the Seahawks.
Well, that's true.
With Russell.
But hey, you know, it works. But, so, I mean, he always said he was, as a kid, that's all he wanted to do was play in the NFL. And he said it turned out to be more fun than he could have ever imagined. 18 seasons, and he's met and had awesome relationships. And now he gets to continue it, you know, because he's going to still be involved.
Right.
But he's just not going to get hit.
I could get behind that.
Yeah, exactly.
7:30 at iFIBER One.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
Bye. Better.
threaten to veto those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to fill open positions. The Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy, Melissa Wood, said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Wood said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Wood said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training period. A reminder that the Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS at FM 1033, I'm Mary Lynn Foster.
At Mason PUD3, we know that time changes all things, like phone numbers, mailing addresses, and email addresses, even names. PUD3 needs your correct account information for emergency contacts and online security. To make this fun, all PUD3 customers who update or confirm their account information by April 27th will have their names placed into a drawing for a free iPad mini. Go to masonpud3.org/account to learn more.
The Tom Hartman Show, live 9 to noon, weekdays on iFIBER One News Radio.
Eventually, something is going to break through all the lies and all the hundreds of millions of dollars that Koch Industries and ExxonMobil and others have spent funding climate change deniers. Eventually, it's going to break through, and people are going to realize that for the last 40 years, they have been lied to by very wealthy people who are lying to us and allowing people to die just so they can protect their wealth. Not even protect their existing wealth, just so they can make more wealth.
Happy New Year for the NFL, that is. I'm Dave Packer reporting on sports. The NFL's new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern today, and with that new year, many free agents will be able to make their new contracts official. But one move that will also become official this afternoon, the retirement of Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson, who filed his paperwork with the league on Tuesday. While Johnson's talent was without question, ESPN's Michael Rothstein points out the one thing Johnson's resume lacks.
Personally, he did everything he possibly could on an individual level. Team-wise, however, he never quite got that satisfaction that he wanted. He always said he wanted to win with the Lions, and it just never happened.
More tickets being punched to the NCAA tournament on Tuesday. Green Bay ends a 20-year tourney drought after winning the Horizon League title. Gonzaga, Fairleigh Dickinson, and South Dakota State will also be dancing later this month. The San Antonio Spurs haven't lost consecutive games all season, but that mark was in jeopardy Tuesday night against Minnesota.
Aldridge in the paint. LaMarcus runner with the left hand off the back of the rim and good for LaMarcus Aldridge. He's got 23, and the Spurs have the biggest lead.
On WOA.
Always seemed like a nice guy. Had always a smile on his face. His brother, just as a side note, married Elizabeth, became Hasselbeck. She became a star after the second season of Survivor, the Australian Outback. And then she went on Fox News for a long time, remember?
She was on The View first.
She was on The View.
And then she went to Fox
And then she went to
News, yeah.
Fox. And that was Matt's sister-in-law. Well, I had to think about it real fast. Sister-in-law. Eric McClellan scored 20 and Kyle Wiltshire added 17. Gonzaga wins its West Coast Conference Championship game last night, 85-75 against St. Mary's. They'll be in now the 18th straight NCAA tournament appearance. They had a few smudges on their resume. They may have not even have made it if they hadn't have won this last night. Selection Sunday is this Sunday, so Gonzaga will find out who they will take on in the first round of the NCAA tournament. We will have Gonzaga basketball for you as far as they go in the tourney, right here on iFIBER One News Radio. Additionally, spring training baseball is happening right now. Mike Napoli had 2 hits and drove in a run, helping the Cleveland Indians beat the Seattle Mariners 4-3. We've got Mariners baseball tonight on the radio. AM 1030 and FM 103.3. Pregame at 7. First pitch at 7:10. Eastern Washington beat 11th seeded Northern Arizona 74-52. They'll play number 3 Idaho in a quarterfinal game tomorrow. And news from the Great White North, Carol. Familiar name atop the standings of the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race. 2-time winner Mitch Seavey was the first musher to leave the checkpoint in McGrath. He spent no time there whatsoever to get back onto the trail with his team of 15 dogs. In second place is his son, 3-time winner and defending champion Dallas Seavey, who had yet to leave McGrath. Looks like the old man trying to get one up on him. Now, Carol, you told me about bringing in snow, right, for the Iditarod, quite possibly the world's most famous freight shipment ever to travel the rails from Fairbanks to Anchorage, wound up going straight to the dump. Snow was shipped last week after persistently warm temperatures left Anchorage streets bare ahead of the ceremonial start of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race last Saturday. Alaska Dispatch News reports City Manager Mike Abbott told Anchorage Assembly members yesterday, "Thanks, no thanks. We ended up not needing it. They got a little bit of snow."
Oh, really?
And things all worked out well. Reminds me of
they say.
That movie Brewster's Millions, where they're going to ship the iceberg to the Middle East. That's such a great movie. 7:40 now, and taking a look at the South Sounds forecast. Here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around Sound. The high will be in the upper 40s, and we'll get about 2 inches of rain. An area flood watch and a coastal flood advisory have been issued. And tonight, wind could also be a problem because forecast is for gusts near 40 miles per hour. And tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. For expanded weather coverage, check iFiberNewsRadio.com under the weather tab. Right now in Bremerton, it looks like it's about 44, and the rain has moved off from Bremerton. In Olympia and in Shelton, it's about 43, and it's super dark clouds, but the rain
looks like it's about to come
it's
down.
just about getting here.
That the Capitol Forest really gives us not like the Hoh rainforest does, but the Capitol Forest there gives us a nice little rain shadow. Rain shadow, especially today.
Yeah,
looks like it's just going right around that.
Yeah, but it will come.
It's coming.
Now, from the iFIBER One News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor, your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
7:41 and a good morning to you. Crews are working to shut off natural gas in Seattle, a neighborhood up there that was rocked by an overnight explosion. Heavily damaged buildings and injured 9 firefighters. Nearby residents evacuated after the blast, and no word of other injuries or anyone missing. But a witness did tell Como that the blast shook him out of bed. Carol is monitoring the Twitter sphere right now, and how does that is some impressive video coverage.
There's some amazing video there showing where the mini mart blew up, and then they're showing the surrounding areas, and the power poles are knocked over, it looks like, and it just looks like a war zone. I mean, it's just crazy looking.
Have you ever been in a situation like that where something blew up?
That, no. You?
I remember there was a pipeline explosion in Bellingham when I was up there. But it was way far away from where we were staying.
Yeah.
That's a tough video to watch. Check it out on the Twitter this morning.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER ONE Newsradio.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at...
Excuse me, heavy news?
You know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is...
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Look for your free copy of Coffee News, available in restaurants throughout the South Sound and Mason County. Sometimes GPS lets you down. Always have a map handy in the glove box. And that's an easy thing to do with Mass Marketing Maps. These maps are free. Pick one up today at West Realty in Hoodsport, Mountain View Licensing on Wallace Neyland, at the Agate Store, and at iFIBER ONE Newsradio. So the next time technology lets you down, be prepared with a new map from Mass Marketing.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? Power Swabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of Power Swabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with Power Swabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Trays that you have to swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try Power Swabs risk-free, call 1-800-928-7113. That's 1-800-928-7113. Guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends, family, and coworkers talking about how great you look.
Other populations in the county that other folks don't even really know about. So they had groups go out and do some counts, and so a pretty good snapshot of the chronically homeless. Tammy Newton works for the, I had it right here. She works at the county's Human Services Coordinator. That is her position there. It's 7:45 at iFIBER ONE Newsradio, and a good morning to you. I am Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner, and heart attacks, Carol, something to think about. And apparently, now you may have already known this, but I had no idea that the new warnings about the symptoms of heart attacks in women can be very different than the telltale or classic symptoms that are experienced by men. Heart attack signs in women can resemble the flu, and can often go ignored until it's too late. ABC's Chief Health and Medical Examiner and editor, Dr. Richard Besser, has some information on what women need to know.
Women are much slower to get to the hospital. They're much slower to call the ER. They're much slower when they get to the hospital to get the right tests and to have those procedures done. So what you want to do, listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right, call 911. Sit down, chew an aspirin, because that will help your survival from this. And then when you get to the emergency room, don't diminish your symptoms. Say, I think I may be having a heart attack.
So, Carol, what I'm hearing here is that people just now are realizing this, that it's different between men and women when it comes to heart attack symptoms?
I've heard this news for years. It's always been true that the women do not have the same classic as the man with the left or right arm or whatever that usually signifies something. Yeah, I've heard this for quite some time now. Maybe the media is just picking up on it.
It was Women's Day yesterday, wasn't it?
International
Women's Day.
Yes,
so maybe
was.
we're having another look on this. So the classic symptoms obviously are male driven, and chest pain that radiates down your arm, the palpitations, the heartbeats that are rapid, shortness of breath. So all of that stuff is more common in men than in women, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's harder actually to tell when you're a woman, but you can tell if something does not seem like the normal flu or indigestion or pain in your neck or back. Something's just off.
So
go to 911 and get it checked out. But you don't want do you like to call? How often do you go to the emergency rooms yourself? I mean, what's your opinion on that for yourself personally?
So personally, I was in the emergency room. I had that double strep throat a couple months ago. Remember that? I wasn't in for a week or so. I probably wouldn't have gone in. I went to one doctor and it said, well, you're probably okay. Drink some water, something like that. And then it was the middle of the night and I woke up and I could not swallow. And finally, I probably should have gone earlier, but you don't. And it's not a man-woman thing. I think it's a person thing. They just are not going. We had to take Kaiser into the ER too. For him, whatever. Let's go. But for me, I said, well, let's wait and see what happens. Yeah. When you go to the doctor, you can stop at any time. Do you have a man doctor or a woman doctor?
You mean
personally?
Just personally, I have a female. Yeah.
So if you had a man doctor, would you feel more or less uncomfortable saying, well, I've got typical flu symptoms, but I feel like it's something more? Do you think you'd be listened to?
I don't know, because I usually don't choose male doctors. I guess I choose female doctors because they're more apt to relate. Yeah.
That's interesting. I had never heard this before.
Amazing. And you're usually all up on women.
Hey, I'm pro-woman. There's one thing I am, is pro-woman.
So they say.
No, it is true.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER ONE Newsradio.
Experts say the next hot trend in home makeovers won't be a dream kitchen or bath, but a luxury garage. A closer look today from the Old Farmer's Almanac. With more practical tips and useful advice, this is the Old Farmer's Almanac Radio Report for Wednesday, March 9th, the 69th day of the year. Country singer Mickey Gilley has a birthday, and Mattel introduced the Barbie doll on this day in 1959. We've been asking retailers about the latest in home trends, and it seems that one area due for a dramatic makeover is the garage. Expect the garage to become more of an extension to the living space with its own climate controls, audio-visual systems, and yes, even wet bars. Higher quality flooring and finishes will give the garage a more refined look. Specialized storage is becoming a new standard, and some homes will have tubs or sinks installed as pet washing stations. It all sounds great. We just hope they remember to leave room for the car and maybe a toolbox or two. That is the Old Farmer's Almanac Radio Report. Learn more at almanac.com.
iFIBER ONE Newsradio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
7:52 at iFiber One News Radio. Good morning to you. It's Daybreak here. I'm Jeff Lakey along with Carol Gardner. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Jeff.
We have a GOP debate coming up Thursday night. We'll have it for you on just a couple days before the Florida primary, which is coming up on Tuesday, the 15th. Ohio as well. It's going to be a big day on March 15th. To be sure. 7:52 here at iFiber One News Radio. We have ABC News coming up at the top of the hour. Also, the latest in local news continues on as we're monitoring the situation up in Seattle. There was an explosion earlier today that has leveled a lot of the area around it. You can find some amazing photos on Twitter. They are hashtagging it the Greenwood explosion, hashtag Greenwood explosion, so you can get all the aggregate of that information, including photos and videos from news on the scene. 7:53 here at iFiber One. We were mentioning that it is an election day yesterday, and the candidates are continuing their swings across America today to garner votes. And here is more from ABC News.
Your voice, your vote. New polls show Marco Rubio trailing Donald Trump in his home state of Florida. Not a lot of time for voters to change their minds either. ABC's Brad Mielke's there.
More than 1 million voters have already cast ballots, and we're just halfway through Florida's early voting period. Several states this cycle have seen record-breaking turnout, driven mainly by Republicans, perhaps out of love or hate for Donald Trump. His enthusiastic supporters have been driving some states' early voting campaigns, leading Rubio's team to try to bank some votes of their own here in Florida as the homegrown senator races to catch up in the polls. Brad Mielke, ABC News, Miami.
Speaking of must-wins, the only governor still in the race is holding out hope for the Buckeye State.
Ohio Governor John Kasich vowing to stay in the race, even though he has yet to win a single contest. He says he will win his home state. Now, some good news for Kasich. Late breakers, according to exit polls, chose John Kasich more than any other candidate in Michigan.
ABC's Tom Yamas, also in Florida. I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Thanks, Sherry. 7:54 at iFiber1newsradio.com, and we will have updated results as they come available during election days and throughout the rest of the year here on iFiber One. We will focus heavily on the upcoming presidential, state races, and local races as well. 7:55 here at iFiber One News Radio. You ever drive in the car and you're driving and you're kind of minding your own business? Got my hands up my 10 and 2 or wherever they're supposed to be these days. And you look over and you see someone and they're right alongside you. I mean, right alongside, almost as if they could be in your passenger. So you look and you come back and then you keep driving a little bit more. And they're still there. They're just following you, mimicking you, coming, and they're just right there. And it can be quite an uncomfortable scene. There is a video out on the website from South Africa this morning about a couple of bicyclists.
Yeah, could you imagine bicycling and then something coming up right beside you? And that something up happens to be an ostrich.
Like an animal ostrich.
Yes. An animal ostrich. Three people were embarking on a pre-race ride in the Cape Good Hope in South Africa when an ostrich began running after them on a long stretch of deserted road. The video is awesome. I'll post it on Facebook. The ostrich didn't have any problem keeping up with them at 30 miles an hour.
What?
Yeah. Apparently they do 70K, which I'm not quite sure what that.
That's probably
little
50.
Over, almost 40 per hour. And the video, the ostrich is running right next to him. It almost looks like it's just going to knock him over, but it doesn't. And then eventually it just took off. But it is crazy. You're just riding along. And then all of a sudden this ostrich is bigger than the bicyclists themselves.
I'm reminded of the Disney movie Swiss Family Robinson. And there's a scene in the movie Swiss Family Robinson where they ride ostriches.
Yeah.
And it just looks like this guy is out of control.
And he's like 2 times the size of the bicyclist. It is crazy. I'll post that on Facebook for you.
Post that on our Facebook.com/1030KMAS is where you can find us on Facebook. And we do encourage you to like us on the various social medias, including the Twitter at iFiber1 Radio and on Facebook, as I just mentioned, Facebook.com/1030KMAS. Other news stories from around the Northwest. We are learning more this morning about the teacher in Tacoma who was relieved of duties after it was thought that perhaps she had been under the influence at school. Documents show a Tacoma kindergarten teacher fired for drinking in the classroom had a blood alcohol level 5 times the legal limit, which is 0.08. So hers was 0.4, which is that's 40% of blood to alcohol.
Yeah, it's just
40%. So
crazy.
Clara Bowman fired last week after an investigation. Highest that the test will even register is 0.40. So it may have even been above that. I don't even know. Crazy story there from Tacoma. And also on I-90, ecology crews were picking up litter, and they found 100 pairs of shoes in boxes near North Bend. Cairo reports that the state officials say the shoes, and they look brand new. The pictures I've seen look brand new. They've been donated to a Seattle organization that will help women, children, and families in need. And they're basically, I don't even know how to explain these types of shoes. They're just like deck shoes. They're white, they're flats, they're slip-ons, and they are brand new. And they are going to help out 100 folks who did not have shoes beforehand. You've got some more on this BAC thing?
Yeah, so 40% is, 0.4 is what we had. So 0.15, 0.15, that's like a half a pint of whiskey circulating in the bloodstream. 0.30 to 0.50, it says complete unconsciousness, depressed or absent reflexes. So I am amazed that she was still standing around.
Able to get to work, able to somewhat function.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially being a female. So that's sort of because they usually have a lower tolerance.
Yeah.
For
Breaking turnouts.
Clinton still has a large delegate lead, but her loss is infusing new energy into his campaign. Donald Trump racked up 3 more wins, calling them tremendous and saying he hopes to lock up the nomination soon. ABC's Brad Milkey is at one of the next battleground states, Florida.
I'm on Calle Ocho, or A Street, which is never lacking in Cuban coffee or political opinions. Cuban Americans here all know Marco Rubio, who grew up nearby. And while the neighborhood is a stronghold for him, several voters plan to cast ballots for Donald Trump, who's also a household name here with his golf courses and hotels. One man told me Trump got his vote after Jeb Bush dropped out, which might worry Rubio. Brad Milkey, ABC News, Miami.
2 Baltimore police officers are charged with assault and child abuse after cell phone video emerged showing one of them slapping and kicking a teenage boy at a school while the second stands by. One officer in the video says he can't talk about it because the media will twist the story, but he added, "Right now, I'm the bad guy." Both are on administrative leave. Doctors are out with a new warning about hidden heart attack symptoms that feel like the flu. ABC's Dr. Richard Besser says women are more likely to suffer from them.
Women are much slower to get to the hospital. They're much slower to call the ER. They're much slower when they get to the hospital to get the right tests and to have those procedures done. So what you want to do, listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right, call 911. Sit down, chew an aspirin because that will help your survival from this. And then when you get to the emergency room, don't diminish your symptoms. Say, I think I may be having a heart attack.
Air India commemorated International Women's Day by directing an all-female crew to operate the world's longest regularly scheduled flight from New Delhi to San Francisco, from the flight crew to the flight attendants, calling it a symbol of empowerment. This is ABC News.
Every day, millions of people suffer from good health.
I hate feeling so good all the time. What's right with me?
If you're in optimal health, chances are you're taking all-natural Texas Superfood.
It's so annoying getting a good night's sleep. I am so awake every day.
Each bottle is packed with over 55 fruits and vegetables picked at their peak. Then we add nothing.
Just once, I'd like to experience intestinal discomfort just like everybody else.
So your body gets all the benefits of fresh, ripe, nutrient-rich produce, and that's all.
I wish I could get sick more often, especially during flu season.
No pesticides, no animal products, no fillers, sweeteners, or artificial anything.
Why do I have so much energy? Why?
Visit us at trytexassuperfood.com or call us at 844-START-55 today to get started on your path to the healthiest version of you. Texas Superfood comes in tablet or powder form. Available only at trytexassuperfood.com.
Another day of testimony is on tap for Hulk Hogan in his $100 million lawsuit against the website Gawker over a videotape that he says humiliated him. ABC's Lindsay Janis is covering the trial.
The defense is arguing that Hogan long invited the public into his private life, showing clips of him discussing it on radio programs, also clips of Hogan Knows Best, his former reality show, including one when him and his ex-wife Linda were seeking marriage help. But Hogan said, look, it's a TV show. That was Hulk Hogan. Hogan knows best, not Terry Bollea knows best. It may be difficult for the jury to try to figure out when he is which, but Hogan's people telling us it's really clear. Terry Bollea is almost always Hulk Hogan, except when he's in a private bedroom being secretly recorded. Lindsay Janis, ABC News, St. Petersburg, Florida.
It's a happy 100th birthday for BMW. It reported a record-breaking profit of $6.6 billion last year, a 10% increase over the previous year, fueled by stronger sales of its SUVs. Karen Chase, ABC News.
Local news is brought to you by Fred Holmes Tree Service. FredHolmesTreeService.com, 427-4489.
From the iFIBER ONE Newsradio studios, I'm Marilyn Foster. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County found more homeless children than during the same time last year. Tammy Newton, the county's Human Services Coordinator, who trained volunteers for the January 28th count, released the findings yesterday. They showed that 211 homeless children aged 18 and younger were counted, compared to 85 children during the 2015 count. Children accompanied by adults fell to 7, compared to 50 in 2015, a 614% decline. Newton said the Mason County Homeless Coalition wants to improve relations with school districts to find additional homeless children and families. You can see other findings in the count with this story on our website at iFIBER1newsradio.com. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is threatening to begin vetoing legislation unless lawmakers reach a budget deal soon. The legislative session will end at midnight tomorrow. 35th District Representative Dan Griffey reacted on Daybreak.
That's ridiculous. There's very good policy for Washington State that needs to be considered and needs to be signed into law by the governor. And for him to take this ridiculous action is just an idle threat. If he doesn't pass some of this stuff in the legislation, it's going to be things like breakfast after the bell. So it's going to be a little ridiculous for him to threaten to veto those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to fill open positions. Sheriff's Office Communications Deputy Melissa Wood said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Woods said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Woods said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training period. A reminder that the Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS at FM 103.3, I'm Mary Lynn Foster.
The Tom Hartman Show, live 9 to noon, weekdays on iFIBER One News Radio.
This is not an election cycle where middle-of-the-road Democrats are going to stir up enough of the base and enough excitement and enthusiasm that they're going to seriously win elections. And that's the thing that Republicans have figured out and Democrats have yet to learn, which is that elections are not about swaying so-called undecided voters. They're about stirring up the base. The base will bring the undecided voters along with them. They'll do it through social media. They'll do it through talking to their neighbors. They'll do it by talking to people in the workplace. But you've got to energize the base.
Is your family doing some growing? Whether it's an expansion of your home or the addition of a new family car, Peninsula Credit Union can provide fast, friendly service with terrific rates. We offer personal lines of credit, affordable auto loans, and a variety of home loan options to get you moving. Visit our offices in Shelton, Belfair, Paulsbo, Port Orchard, and Port Townsend, or go online to pcfcu.org. At Peninsula Credit Union, our priority is you.
Now, from the all-new Gillis Auto Center Sports Desk, here's Jeff Slakey.
I'm Jeff Slakey. It is One News Radio. Matt Hasselbeck hanging up his cleats. We just found that out about 45 minutes ago or so. He is the broadcast booth and taking place of Mike Ditka for ESPN Day and Monday Night Countdown. So that's kind of cool stuff. Good for him. 18 years in the NFL. Eric McClellan scored 20. Kyle Welcher added 17. Gonzaga wins their West Coast Conference Championship game last night against St. Mary's, 85-75. They'll be headed to their 18th straight NCAA tournament. They weren't really sure if Gonzaga was going to make it because of some smudges on their resume, as you will. Winning the WCC, of course, makes Selection Sunday a move. They'll happily had 2 hits and drove in a run, helping the Mariners. And the Indians beat the Mariners 4-3 yesterday. We've got Mariners baseball tonight on iFIBER One News Radio. Pregame at 7 and first pitch is at 7:10. Defending Big Sky Conference Tournament champion Eastern Washington beat Northern Arizona 74-52 last night. They'll play Idaho tomorrow, who is the number 3 seed. And in Pac-12 tournament, UW takes on Stanford today at noon. It's 8:10 at iFIBER One News Radio, and taking a look at the forecast now, here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around the South Sound. The high will be in the upper 40s, and we're going to get about 2 inches of rain. An area flood watch and coastal flood advisory have been issued. And tonight, wind could also be a problem. Forecast is for gusts near 40 miles per hour. Tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. For expanded weather coverage, check iFiber1newsradio.com, the weather tab. And right now in Shelton, it's about 44. And that seems to be what it is in Olympia and up in Bremerton. And I'm looking at the map of the rain, and we're still sort of I just looked out the window too. There doesn't seem to be any rain right now in downtown Shelton, but it is definitely coming.
Now, from the iFIBER One News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor, your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
Good morning to you. It is Daybreak at iFIBER One News Radio, 8:11. here in the morning, and we've got a port of call segment coming up at 8:45. This morning, Carol, in Seattle, crews have finally been able to shut down the natural gas after a explosion rocked a neighborhood, heavily damaged buildings, and injured 9 firefighters. Nearby residents evacuated. Fortunately, as of now, no word of other injuries or missing, but one witness said the blast shook him out of bed, and you're looking at some photos of just utter devastation, it looks like.
Yeah, major destruction. They said it sort of felt like an earthquake.
I bet.
Yeah.
You can find it on the Twitter there, trending the hashtag Greenwood Explosion, so you can follow that hashtag, right? That's what they're called.
Yes, hashtag.
And then it'll set up all the tweets regarding that situation in a nice list. All right, it's 8:12 here at iFIBER One News Radio. The point in time count that we heard Marilyn Foster talk about has been released. Tammy Newton, the county's Human Services Coordinator, released the findings yesterday. Some of the other findings in the count: 31 military veterans were counted compared to 14 in 2015.
Amazing. Seeking qualified people to fill open positions. There's openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Thurston County, Pacific County, Grays Harbor Sheriffs, and City of Shelton Police Department are all also looking for people.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFIBER One News Radio.
My Mason Health connected with free online access to their personal health records. My Mason Health, personal medical and health world 24/7. Whether you're at home, at work, on vacation, anywhere you can get an internet connection, you can securely access My Mason Health. Manage your doctor's appointments, review medical visits, message your provider, monitor your fit, and much more. Sign up for My Mason Health at your next hospital or
Mason entity provider, translation services provided.
Mason General and Family Athletics. There's no place like home.
Getting home safely is just find the right seat for your little one's age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat for more information. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Ad Count.
Presenting another Olympic Coast Minute.
I've been coming to Iron Springs for about 40 years. First as a child with my parents, then as a teenager, then with my husband. We've brought friends, neighbors, in-laws, a few miscellaneous boyfriends of my sister, carried grandma over streams on the beach, and now I'm back with our 2 lovely daughters.
Iron Springs Resort is where special memories are kept. Iron Springs consists of 25 classic, historic oceanfront cabins, lovingly renovated, with wood-burning fireplaces, uninterrupted ocean views, fully stocked modern kitchens, Wi-Fi, and widescreen TV. It gets better. Iron Springs is offering you their spring special. Book 2 nights, and the 3rd night is on us. Stay 3 nights and pay for only 2. For details, visit us at ironspringsresort.com. ironspringsresort.com. This Olympic Coast Minute was brought to you by Iron Springs Resort in Copalis Beach, where the ocean and seagulls greet you every day.
iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3.
8:15 radio. Good morning. I'm Jeff Lakey along with Carol Gardner at 8:15 and on iFiber1newsradio.com. We've posted a story via our friends at the Business Examiner about deadline, an upcoming deadline, Carol.
The deadline is at the. So basically, if you are a medical marijuana store and you want to become a retail store, you have to have your application in. Plus, if you wanted to just have a new retail store, you have to have your application in. So they're combining all of it together.
Okay. In the state for retail marijuana shops that do not count for medical telling me. So they're bumping the cap up to what?
Exact number.
Okay.
Looks like 56.
Yeah. So that means that the medical folks, which I'm sure there are more than 220 of them in the state, will have to then get in line with other folks who says, hey, I want to start one.
It looks like it's competition now. I mean, just because you were a medical marijuana, you don't have there. I don't think there's any priority for anybody. So
lottery, perhaps, if too many.
Yes.
Interesting. So that continues to roll on here as news of cannabis industry continues here in Mason County and the state. News reports are all over the scene in Seattle looking at this Seattle explosion. This pipeline Greenwood explosion is the trending hashtag on Twitter. And we're looking at the video and the news report will anything new comes about, but they've finally been able to get the gas off at least. 9 fire, no other injuries or anyone missed. Last was just a.
It's pretty huge area there. We're watching some helicopter footage from Sky King over the explosion area. I mean, the whole
building that was there
is gone.
City just like firefighter radio. Shelton's own and the state's Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen has announced his retirement after 4 decades in the state. Owen will last through this term, which ends in January. Several folks are running for Lieutenant Governor this year, including 3 state senators. That had been. But first, Carol, legislature passing a bill on police body cameras.
Yes, it looks like it's seeking to keep the police body camera videos of preemptively shows a dead body was recorded in a home or shows a minor, and that footage would be withheld unless the requester can demonstrate the video is of legitimate concerns. Once again, you're going to
show a Tacoma kindergarten teacher fired for drinking in the classroom had a blood alcohol level of 5 times the legal limit to drive in the state of Washington. Tacoma School District officials say Clara Bowman fired last week after an investigation. Her BAC at the highest the test will register was 0.4. And research before that about that is likely to do to a person. However, you can build up tolerances, and
I guess
that was
you can.
Situation there. That's a lot. That's a high BAC.
Yes,
0.4.
it is.
When we come back on Daybreak at iFIBER ONE News Radio, Senate budget, and they're going to read here.
To Daybreak on iFIBER ONE
in London. And if you're worried about your when living alone, like I want reliable, call a place. The nation's largest senior living service. Get free and living, nursing, important. They found me a place for what and they just help, and I can So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you on time. Call now. 800-469-0286. 800-469.
iFIBER One News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3 presents Daybreak.
8:22 here at iFIBER One News. Just 10 minutes and very latest in.
The Senate in Washington has passed a supplemental transportation budget that includes money to raise the salaries of the state patrol officers. The proposal was approved by a 44-5 vote Tuesday and will be considered by the House. The budget is an agreed compromise supported by leadership in the House and Senate. According to the Office of Financial Management and lawmakers, it would alter the two-year transportation budget passed last year by over $500 million, with about $5 million going toward a 5% salary hike for the state patrol officers. A report given to the legislature this year said many troopers leave the patrol for higher paying jobs in local law enforcement agencies, creating an unsustainable drop in officers.
The legislature has passed a measure to rename a state highway in honor of a Black Civil War veteran. The House unanimously concurred with the changes made in the Senate on House Joint Memorial 4010, and now the bill heads to the governor's desk. Measure has the Washington State Transportation Commission, which is responsible for naming highways and bridges. Oh, that's the job you want to get in there, get your own name on something. That's who you lobby, the Washington State Transportation Commission. Start the process of naming State Route 99 after Black Civil War veteran William P. Stewart of Snohomish. Markers along what was used to be State Route 99 near Blaine and Vancouver in Clark County once honored Jefferson Davis, the first and only president of the Confederate States of America. Highway currently has no official name, and the markers, blessed by state officials in 1940, have since been taken down. We've been talking about the explosion up in Seattle following a natural gas explosion, and 9 Seattle firefighters are injured. Other than that, we are not hearing of any other reports of injured or missing. It is a natural gas leak, and on the Twitter, there are pictures and videos now as the sun has risen of partial building collapse that have been shattered and debris that is hanging and tangled up in trees. It is a pretty treacherous sight up there.
State Department of Ecology officials say a crew picking up litter found 100 pairs of shoes in boxes along I-90 east of North Bend. Cairo TV reports the state officials say the shoes, which appear new, have been donated to a Seattle organization that helps homeless women, children, and families in need. And you said that these shoes were white shoes, and they're sort of like
just look like deck shoes.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of boxes, 100 boxes.
How does that even happen?
I do not know. I hope we find out more information on that.
I know, these are the great stories. All right, you ready to go to space?
I think it would be pretty cool.
Now, even if you couldn't come back, are you ready to go to space?
No, maybe.
Private, it's still the Amazon guy, will launch its first human test flights into space just next year, 9 months from now. Company founder Jeff Bezos said during a tour of the venture's research and development site south of Seattle, he's convinced it can be profitable eventually. Bezos also founded Amazon.com, says many thousands of people have already expressed interest in taking a trip on Blue Origin's suborbital craft when it starts taking reservations.
So this is not the same group that's going to Mars that has people signed up, and they've already, I think, picked some people, or they're in the process of narrowing it down. Tourists think it'll be fun.
People that'll own cameras, and they'll get it'll be up in the atmosphere of the military aircraft that you can see at the Museum of Flight, and it was hovering above the Earth at about 80,000 feet or so. So it's outside of the, I think that the top one is the ionosphere. Regardless, the most top of the spheres when it comes to leaving the atmosphere. And you could see it, and I think that's about as far as you'll go.
Oh, really? You wouldn't go up into dark space?
I don't think that these types of craft will take you into deep orbit.
Okay, so, because some of the, I mean, I read a lot about the astronauts and such, and all of them feeling when you get back to Earth.
Right.
Is, you can see the picture of the globe, but seeing it in person and you're going, wow, we won't.
No, I think we would.
Okay.
So these are these SpaceX taking off, had them success. They've had land. I don't know I don't know what the craft will look like eventually to take people into space, if it's going to look like.
But they'll go up to like to the space station.
No, not
areas.
that far.
So then you may not see the Earth. I mean, as just a, like a round.
Not a full globe. Sphere is probably.
Which would to go inside the Earth, the marble.
Well, one of the things they say is there's the Van Allen radiation belt that's just outside of the atmosphere, and that was always kind of one of the if we went to the moon conspiracy. So how do you get through the belt without being radiated? Guessing that Bezos and the best any sort of just the worms, because who knows what these ships are going to look like. They could look like 747s. They could look like the space shuttle.
Or they could look like something we've never seen before.
Wouldn't that be something? No, I'd head up into space. That'd be a lot of fun. Edward Jones is on the line. Karen Shade, hello.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Happy space.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
To get all the way the full Earth, or you want to be able to be kind of close, or once you're out there?
No, I would like to be full up there just so I can see the whole. Yeah,
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, would I want to be out there for?
No.
No, but I think.
So, Jeff Bezos, the Amazon
I heard
guy.
about that.
Yeah, so next year, I think.
Well, I wonder how much that's going to be.
It's got to be just
millions of dollars for you to ride in it.
Yeah.
But then you want to make sure other people go before you do.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first one.
I'm sorry, because you know how, isn't he the one that the rocket blew up?
A couple times.
You know what? I wouldn't do it. I think this. No, I think. Yeah, I don't know. He has to have proven record that all those rockets are good.
Maybe he'll go up first to prove that it's working.
Yeah, and if he does that, that'd be okay.
If he did it himself.
Who else has got a rocket going that they already booked seats on it?
Yeah, so I think, isn't that the Virgin Atlantic guy, Richard Branson?
Yeah.
They're all doing this stuff. We're going to be out. We're going to be
the Jetsons soon enough.
It will be.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It is crazy. How's the stock market this morning?
Well, U.S. Like economic news in the housing market, with lower price homes selling, even as the inventories and expensive ones pile up. Bond prices are mixed with little change to begin the day. So far this morning, the S&P 500, the best performing sector is energy, while the worst performing sector is telecom. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 11 points at 16,975. The Standard & Poor's 500 Index is up 2 points at 1,981. And the NASDAQ Composite Index is up 4 points at 4,653. This morning, volume on the New York Stock Exchange is high, with about 267 million shares being traded, and decliners by roughly 3-2 margin. In the commodity markets, the spot price of gold is down $4.80 to $1,256.62. The spot price of silver is up 7 cents to $15.42, and crude oil prices are up $1.14 to $37.64. In the bond markets, the 30-year Treasury yield is currently 2.67%, and the 10-year Treasury yield is 1.87%. Stocks of local interest: Amazon is down $5.77. Costco is up $2.13. Boeing is up 40 cents. Starbucks is down 17 cents. And Microsoft is up $1.04. This is Karen Shade of Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and long-term financial advice. I'm located at 1051 Southeast State Route 3 in Shelton. And if you'd like additional information, you can contact me at 426-4590, and daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
All right, Karen, have a great one.
Thank you. You too.
8:32 here at iFIBER ONE News Radio, and the latest in local news is coming up next, and we're finding out some more information on this space flight. We'll tell you before we wrap up. The news right now is brought to you by the...
From the iFIBER ONE News Radio studios, I'm Marilyn Foster. January's point-in-time count of the homeless in Mason County found more homeless children than during the same time last year. Tammy Newton, the county's human services coordinator, who trained volunteers for the January 28th count, released the findings yesterday. They showed that 211 homeless children aged 18 and younger were counted, compared to 85 children during the 2015 count. Children accompanied by adults fell to 7, compared to 50 in 2015. 13% decline. Mason County Homeless Coalition improved relations with families. You can see other findings in the count with this story on our website at iFiber1newsradio.com. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is threatening to begin vetoing legislation unless lawmakers reach a budget deal soon. The legislative session will end at midnight tomorrow.
We policy for Washington State that needs to be considered and needs to be signed into law by the governor, and for him to take this ridiculous action is just an idle threat. Past some of the, it's going to be things like breakfast after the bell, and so yeah, it's going to be a little ridiculous for him to so those good pieces of legislation. The deal is just let the process work through. Both sides are going to play hardball up until the end, and we're going to come up with a budget.
The governor's office says a special session will be called to convene Friday if tomorrow's deadline isn't met. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people to... Office Communications Deputy Melissa Wood said there are openings for 3 patrol deputies, 5 corrections deputies, and 4 support staff. Wood said other sheriff's offices in the region are also struggling to fill open positions. As for MCSO, Wood said it generally takes a year to get hired. When an individual turns in an application, the Mason County Civil Service Commission establishes an eligibility list following civil service rules defined by state law. Applicants selected from the list are subjected to another 1.5 to 2 months of testing and screening. Once a deputy is hired, he or she joins a wait list to attend the academy. That training is 4.5 months long, followed by a 3-month field training. Spring Community Pride Night is this evening at 5:30 in the Mini Dome at the Shelton High School. All are invited to support the students, spring sports athletes, and families. For iFIBER ONE News Radio, 1030 KMAS and FM 103.3, I'm Mary Lynn Foster.
Hi, I'm Ken Slater, the roof doctor. Like me, your family's sure that they're well taken care of. One of the is to provide a safe and warm home to live in. For over 50 years, the Roof Doctor has been helping families stay safe and warm by building roofs that last for generations. Our teams have some of the most experienced roofers in the area, and we only use the highest to keep your family safe, warm, and dry. That's the Roof Doctor. Give us a call.
If you could wave a wand and change one thing about your house,
Get the wand. Home improvement is...
or do show you the tricks of the trade for remodel.
And how to not get fooled when you're choosing and directing a contractor. Hi, I'm Tom Kreitler.
And I'm Leslie Segretti. Phone in your fix-up questions here this weekend.
On the Money Pit Home Improvement Radio Show.
Saturdays at 10, Sundays at 7 on iFIBER ONE News Radio.
Happy New Year for the NFL, that is. I'm Dave Packer reporting on sports. The NFL's new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern today. And with that new year, many free agents will be able to make their new contracts official. All afternoon, the retirement of Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson, who filed his paperwork with the league on Tuesday. While Johnson's talent was without question, ESPN's Michael Rothstein points out the one thing Johnson's resume lacks.
Personally, he did everything he possibly could on an individual level. Team-wise, however, he never quite got that satisfaction that he wanted. He always, with the Lions,
More tickets being punched to the NCAA tournament on Tuesday. Green Bay ends a 20-year tourney drought after winning the Horizon League title. Gonzaga, Fairleigh Dickinson, and South Dakota State will also be dancing later this month. The San Antonio Spurs haven't lost consecutive games all season, but that mark was in jeopardy Tuesday night against Minnesota.
Marcus running with the left hand for LaMarcus Aldridge. He's got 23, and the Spurs have the biggest lead.
On WOAI, as the Spurs overwhelmed the Timberwolves 116-91. LaMarcus Aldridge finished with 29 points in just 29 minutes. Elsewhere, Damian Lillard came up big for the Blazers in overtime.
Lillard now dribbles left, comes back right, across the foul line, puts the shot up, banks it in! Time on Washington!
On KPOJ, as Portland got past Washington 116-109. On the ice, the Bruins had their eye on first place in the Atlantic Division.
Bergeron right away, feeds it out in front, score! Brad Marchand tips it in, 10 seconds into overtime to give the Bruins a tie for first place.
Cub has in overtime over Tampa Bay into a tie for first with the Lightning. Both teams have 83 points. Dave Packer, ABC Sports.
Now, from the all-new Gillis Auto Center Sports Desk, here's Jeff Slakey.
Yeah, thank you. 8:38 here. We heard about Gonzaga, and they will be moving on. 70. The game heard here on iFIBER ONE News Radio. We'll through the tournament Sunday. Find out who they're in a run, helping the Cleveland Indians beat the Seattle in spring training yesterday. We've got Mariners baseball tonight on iFIBER ONE News Radio. Pregame at 7, first pitch at 7:10. Tournaments all over the place in collegiate basketball, and Eastern beat Northern Arizona 74-52 in the Big Sky tourney. They'll play number 3 Idaho tomorrow. And in the Pac-12 tournament, UW takes on Stanford at noon. It's 8:39 now at iFIBER ONE News Radio, and to take a look at the South Sound's forecast, here's Carol Gardner.
Good morning. Heavy rain today around the South Sound. The high will be in the upper 40s, and we're supposed to get about 2 inches of rain. An area flood watch and a coastal flood advisory have been issued. Tonight, wind could also be a problem. Forecast is for gusts near 40 miles an hour. Tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible. For expanded weather coverage, newsradio.com on the weather tab. Right now in Shelton, it's about 44. Olympia, about the same. And Bremerton, it looks like the rain is still, we're still sort of in a rain shadow area. I didn't just look out the window, but the rain is moving with sort of patchy, with patches. If you're along the coast, it looks like you're really getting beat down.
Yeah, lots of rain out there.
Lots of rain.
Now, from the iFIBER ONE News Radio studios, it's Daybreak. Providing local news, sports, weather, and interviews to the South Sound's most important people. You. From business leaders to politicians, from activists for change to advocates for the poor. Your neighbors and newsmakers are here on Daybreak.
8:40 here on iFIBER ONE News Radio. Good morning to you. I'm Jeff Slakey along with Carol Gardner, and we have a Port of Call segment coming up in about 5 minutes here on iFIBER ONE News Radio.
We've been following this morning's stories out of Seattle after a explosion, a natural gas explosion happened overnight, heavily damaged buildings and injured 9 firefighters. Nearby residents evacuated after the blast. No word of other injuries or anyone missing. One witness said it was so epic that the blast shook him out of bed. And we're looking at photos of it on the Twitter under the hashtag Greenwood explosion. And it is amazing the amount of devastation that is in that about half-block area up in Seattle.
Yeah, and the debris is like all over, all the buildings around it and the trees. It's crazy.
And then that, in addition to the shockwave that went and blasted out windows for however far people are going to be finding out that information. We heard Maryland January's point in time count of the homeless in Mason County. Another finding of that count was that 162 homeless individuals said they were living in structures lacking basic amenities such as water, electricity, or plumbing. That compares with 70 counted in 2015 who said they lived in structures without utilities. That's over 100% increase on that one.
The Mason County Sheriff's Office is seeking qualified people. Besides the Mason County Sheriff's Office, Pacific County Sheriff's Office has 5 unfilled positions. Grays Harbor, 4 openings for corrections and 4 patrol positions. And Shelton Police Chief Darren Moody said he has 1 unfilled patrol officer position. And they are currently at the lowest staffing levels in 20 years.
Daybreak on iFIBER ONE Newsradio.
Dental disease in children is the most common chronic disease of childhood and highly preventable. A child with a toothache can have a delayed speech development, trouble sleeping, and difficulty paying attention in school. The medical staff at Oakland Bay PD do oral health screenings and make dental referrals during their well child exams. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends annual oral exams to children from age 1 to prevent dental disease and educate parents on a child's oral care. To schedule your child's next well child exam, call Oakland Bay Pediatrics at 426-3102.
Oakland Bay Pediatrics is part of Mason General Hospital and family of clinics. Equal opportunity provider, translation services provided.
Mason General and family of clinics.
Mornings start with Daybreak on iFIBER ONE Newsradio. Join Jeff and Carol weekdays from 6 to 9 on AM 1030 and FM 1033, KMAS Shelton.
iFIBER Communications, the fastest internet provider in Washington State, has just opened their doors here in Mason County and got their first local customers signed up. James, tell me about your experience.
From the first time I learned of iFIBER to the day I got hooked up, even now, I felt that my fiber connection and the service given to me have been the #1 most important job to every member of the iFIBER team. And not just because I was first in line with my nose pressed up to the glass waiting for a company to take my money.
What differences have you noticed?
I get what I pay for. With non-fiber solutions, you're paying up to the top and never get a constant number anywhere near that top. With fiber, you certainly do. With iFIBER, you get it at a competitive and affordable price.
Why should others sign up for iFIBER Internet?
Well, iFIBER has made a commitment to Mason County. They're working hard to bring fast speeds to everyone at an affordable price. And now with phones and television, your bill will be all in one place with no hidden fees or sudden price changes to surprise you month to month like other providers.
iFIBER Communications today by calling 360-427-4000 or iFIBER.tv for more information.
iFIBER ONE Newsradio, 1030 KMAS and FM 1033 presents Daybreak.
Morning to you. It's 8:45 here at iFIBER ONE Newsradio, and we are diving into a conversation here with the Port of Call. We have Wendy and Dick Taylor in the studio this morning. Good morning, gang.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Nice to see you both here this morning on this Wednesday.
Well, yeah,
and
right in the middle of spring training. I mean, everything's got to be looking up from here, right?
So we had him on Saturday. Was the first. And it's just been nice to hear him.
Yeah.
Watching Felix Hernandez throwing some live right now. Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Well, now we're not going to be able to do any interviews because
you're going to be watching baseball.
Focus.
Things that are Port of Shelton. What's on the docket today? Wendy, let's start with you.
Oh.
Throwing you right into the fire.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually get out to our maintenance guys. They've been working really hard. We're getting prepped up for summer, spring, summer, and all of our mowings. They're getting all the mowers ready to go. We've got some big mowers that have to get in action. Winter, they need some work. So they're doing that.
There's the grass or the tree?
The grass.
Okay.
A lot of grass. And they maintain all of it. That is, they're huge tractors. They're not just, they're not just everyday mowers. And then they just finished a big project at Johns Prairie. They redid 50 rail. So
yeah.
Hard. That was it's a huge undertaking. You know, we have rail out there, and it doesn't get a lot of use, but it does need a lot of work, you know, over a few years span. So they've been doing that, and just yesterday they were down at the docks and they attached another piece of the dock to right in front of Boathouse 100. The points that we have certain boathouses, I think, are they're lacking, and so that we've got good attachment points, and so they were down doing that work too. So these guys are just busting it out and working really hard, and they do really good work. So
especially on the Sanderson field area, we're going to see a large influx of people showing up here this summer. So things need to look good for the evergreen tremors scenario that's going to be happening. So that is a good thing. I want to talk about this railroad thing. Do the crews, are they familiar? Is this a common thing to go change out ties?
No.
Was everybody kind of scratching their head at this thing?
These guys are trained for that. So this is different than your average maintenance worker in a public works location. These guys are all trained on that. They had to get trained to do that, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, it's not just, you know, they, you know, clear the side of the road. You know, I mean, this is a different, it's more specialized work. So
interesting.
Not everybody's trained up on
So
that.
does the port own part of the railroad tracks then? That's why you...
We own them.
Yep. We maintain them. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What else is happening? Port meeting yesterday?
No, we didn't have a port meeting yesterday. We're coming up though. We've got an evergreen trimmer, the final planning
Cascadia Rising, I think, is what they turned into.
You're right.
Yeah,
Cascadia
that's
Rising.
the main event.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, but yeah, Cascadia Rising. The main planning event takes place next Wednesday up American Lake. Area is where it's going to be. So that'll be a 2-day conference. I'll be attending that to see, and we'll come back and be able to talk more about what, you know, our involvement's going to be and the numbers of people that are going to be here and that sort of thing. So that's coming up. No, we didn't have a port meeting yesterday. We did last week.
Yeah.
And as has been published, we're making some changes at the port and moving in a different direction. Or not changing our focus. We're just gonna, it's time to, there's a new commission, and it's time to look at how we're doing, what we're doing, and what direction we want to go in. So that's where we're going.
Do we have an interim director that we're looking at?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We have a deputy director who has stepped in to take charge.
Do we know who that is? Can you announce who that is?
That's Ms. Wendy.
Oh, wonderful. Well, congratulations.
That was one of the things with being a deputy director, is that when in the director's absence, that person is the director. So it was a seamless transition to take place. So, and we're happy. You know, we're glad we've got Wendy to do that. When you call the port, she's the voice, and one of the voices that answers the phone, and it's always a smiley voice, and a very professional voice. So
moving forward, are you opening the process to potential executive directors?
We're discussing the process. We haven't had any meetings and we will do it in public.
Okay.
When the process starts, it will be in public.
So from now until the foreseeable future, Wendy is the deputy director in charge of.
Yeah, I'd like to say Wendy's the man, but she's not. Wendy's the honcho. Yeah.
Very good. Well, yeah, there was some news that was breaking over the last week and so, but we'll continue to bring forth the port of call segments and provide folks. There's a lot of them, and they are very integral into what the county does. Big parts of the county's economics.
And I just wanted to say that we're going to, even in this transition period, we're moving forward with and continuing with what we've been doing. We've had Wendy's been in conversations with one tenant that wants to come in, and so that's things that we didn't have before. So,
and the anticipation of the kind of the new look to the marina and the
still going
still
forward.
on plan.
Still on plan.
Okay.
We're right on board with that. Nothing's changed.
Good. That's good to know. I think a lot of people find comfort in that kind of information.
Oh yeah.
Everything's moving forward. It is 8:51 here, and next week after you'll be here.
Next week I won't be here.
Okay.
Next week I won't be here.
So Wendy, you'll be flying solo then.
Yeah, if she wants to. Yeah. That's up to her. Yeah.
And then you'll be back to talk with us about some more on the Cascadia Rising.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Very good.
After that.
Good. Thank you so much for stopping in and talking with us and letting the folks know about what Wendy, the Deputy Director, Shelton here. We this morning, and when we come back, we'll start to wrap up this Wednesday on Daybreak.
Great. And I
A closer look today from the Old Farmer's Almanac. With more practical tips and useful advice, this is the Old Farmer's Almanac radio report for the has produced the Barbie doll 1950 retailers friends, and it seems that one area due for a dramatic makeover is the garage. Expect the garage to become more of an extension to the living space with its own climate controls, audio-visual systems, and yes, flooring becoming a new standard. Will have tub as pet washing. Well, sounds great. We just hope they remember to leave room for the car and maybe a toolbox or two. That is the Old Farmer's Almanac radio report. Learn more at almanac.com.
and
See you. Video 8:53. Jeff Lakey, Carol Gardner here with Tom Hartman waiting in the wings. He'll be on just after ABC News, and Mary Lynn of no the North explosion up in about 9 firefighters. The explosion, and children at the elementary school up there showing support for the firefighters that came to help out on the neighborhood, and some amazing videos of the. Now they are all with this, Carol. They're all gathered under the moniker Greenwood Explosion. So for Twitter followers, you can find that trending on Twitter.
Hashtag Greenwood Explosion, and you can see all the pictures and the video. Yeah. You know, so when people would
weigh your characters, the amount of characters you can type, do you know?
Yeah, it is, and it is part of it.
Part of the 140 or whatever. Yes, look, media block from PSC have been no sign of a stories, including Shelton's own and the state's Lieutenant Governor, Brad Owen, has decided to hang it up. This will be his last session. He will be not privileged roles. The chamber yesterday during a speech including Shelton State House and served that election to the Senate. He was in 96, were then reelected 4 times.
Mm-hmm. It's a long time to be in the office.
Yeah.
The legislature also has passed a bill that seeks to keep police body cameras public while request the mission would be held private, such as footage that shows a dead body was recorded in a home or shows a minor, and that product will only be allowed to the public if somebody can show the
Something he wanted to bikini barista stand, and there was, in my of reason to why he needed that information.
Right, but it is public request.
So computer technology, that's what they use. Hawaii, and some folks who watch The Real World but remember Hawaii. Well, that show's biggest budget buster was putting the blur parts of people on the show.
Because it was like Naked Hawaii or something.
Well, it wasn't Naked Hawaii, but they were very free with their bodies, I guess, and they were sans clothes a lot of the time, and so they had to go through and scrub out, blur out.
So that you're filming.
No, it's all post. I can recognize parts of body. You know, it was a complicated process to have to scrub all this image.
That was like on a regular. It wasn't on cable, so it was on ABC, NBC, or something.
An MTV show, but
you would have to scrub that out on there?
Yeah, well, they were naked the whole time.
Yeah, but on cable show, a little different on that one.
Yeah. But it is a complicated process, and people will have to go through. Now, the technology, again, could have changed since I did this stuff, video production, but you had to and scrub out those things. That can be a very process, which is one to the side here in the county for the sheriffs. They don't have the staff to go through and scrub the camera of the privacy concerns. So they've just
the future, I'm guessing it's all just like click into anybody wearing anything and you can just be watching it.
I mean, in the news this do the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Less having to sit there and watch video to, oh, should that person's face be, did we make sure that person gave our release? Deputies, 5 correction deputies, and 4 support staff. That's a ton of openings. Grays Harbor County is the same. Thurston County, city of Shelton. The police chief, Jaron Moody, says that he's got 1 unfilled patrol level, and they're at the lowest staffing levels in 20 years. So there's tough decisions, I think, have to be made. Coming up next.